The Secretary will please call the roll.
Roll call of members. The Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri. The Senate President is present.
With 20 senators present, the chair declares the presence of a quorum. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have a number of guests with us today in the gallery, headed by a dear friend of ours. He's the guest of Senator Pangilinan. No other than Congressman Boy Umali of the 2nd District of Oriental Mindoro is here with us today. And we also have with us local officials from the municipality of Katigbian, Bohol, led by our good friend Mayor Benji Oliva. And also we have Vice Mayor Roberto Lagrosas of Manticao, Misamis Oriental, Mr. President. We also have local officials from Barangay Santo Tomas, Laguna. We also have principals and teachers from DepEd, Borongan, Eastern Samar that are here with us. We also have some members of the delegation of the 33rd Southeast Asian Games. We have the women's beach volleyball team and the Philippine boxing team here with us today, Mr. President. We have also, these are guests of Senator Joel Villanueva, who is also sponsoring them for a sumptuous dinner later. Nag-sponsor na pala. Mr. President, students from St. James Academy of Malabon led by Ms. Jennery Francisco and Ms. Mikey Apo is here. Guests from Pampanga Business Circle and local officials from Initao, Misamis Oriental, and Nawaan, Misamis Oriental. Mr. President.
All right, we welcome the guests.
Nawaan.
We welcome the guests to the Senate this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
We also have with us, Mr. President, Acting Mayor Marcos Jun Castro of Mabalacat, Pampanga, with us today.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. President, I move that we dispense with the reading of the journal of the 49th session Wednesday, February 25, 2026, and consider the same as approved.
Any objections? Hearing none, the journal is approved.
Mr. President, I move that we proceed with the reference of business.
Secretary will proceed with the reference of business.
My apologies, Mr. President, so that we can hasten the proceedings. I move to withdraw my motion so that we can proceed already with third reading matters.
Oh yes, more importantly, the third reading for today. So, what is this? What is this treaty?
I forgot. Yes, Mr. President, I forgot the text message of Attorney Mavic Garcia last night. Naunahin namin yun. Mr. President, I move that we approve on third reading proposed Senate Resolution number 315. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. Proposed Senate Resolution 315 is to be considered on third reading. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
Resolution number 315, resolution concurring in the ratification of the treaty between the government of the Republic of the Philippines and the government of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the transfer of sentenced persons. Roll call vote. Honorable Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri, Senate President Soto.
Affirmative. With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, Senate Resolution 315 is approved on third reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And Mr. President, for the record, all three bills that we'll approve on third reading today, copies have been distributed to our senators on February 25, 2026, in compliance with the three-day rule of the Constitution. Just for the record, Mr. President.
All right.
Mr. President, I move that we approve on third reading Senate Bill number 1508. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure on third reading is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
Senate Bill number 1508, an act authorizing the Department of Health to set and approve the bed capacity and service capability of all DOH hospitals. Roll call of members. Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri,
Yes.
Senate President Soto III.
Affirmative. With 20 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, Senate Bill 1508 is approved on third reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Congratulations to the sponsors of the two measures. Next, Mr. President, I move that we approve on third reading Senate Bill number 1823. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1823 for third reading is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure and conduct a roll call vote.
Pending for the purpose of Section 13, Article 16 of Public Act Number 11054 as amended, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. Roll call of members. Senator Aquino, Senator Cayetano Alan, Senator Cayetano Pia, Senator De La Rosa, Senator Ejercito, Senator Escudero, Senator Estrada, Senator Gatchalian, Senator Go, Senator Hontiveros, Senator Lacson, Senator Lapid, Senator Ligarda, Senator Marcoleta, Senator Marcos, Senator Padilla, Senator Pangilinan, Senator Tulfo Erwin, Senator Tulfo Rafi, Senator Villanueva, Senator Villar Camil, Senator Villar Mark, Senator Subiri,
Yes.
Senate President Soto III.
Yes. With 21 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, Senate Bill 1823 is approved on third reading.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I can also thank our dear colleagues for supporting this measure. It's one step forward to achieving peace and in the Bangsamoro region. Mr. President, a lot of our members wish to give an explanation of their vote. May we recognize Senator Joel Villanueva, Mr. President, for the three
Senator-
measures they're
Senator
gonna give.
Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader. Mr. President, may I just explain briefly my explanation of vote on Senate Bill number 1823, Mr. President? We express our full support for the approval of the said measure, an act resetting the first regular elections in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the purpose Section 13, Article 16 of Republic Act number 11054, otherwise known as the Organic Law for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. We would likewise commend the sponsor of this measure, our hardworking Majority Leader, Senator Mig Zubiri, for his steadfast leadership and commitment in advancing this very important reform, Mr. President. Ginoong Pangulo, tayo po ay sumusuporta sa isang prosesong sisiguraduhin na ang bawat boto ay tunay na mabibigyang halaga. Naniniwala din po tayo na ang demokrasya ay pinakamatatag kung ang mga pundasyon nito ay matibay at maayos na itatatag. Mr. President, democracy demands preparation. It requires clarity in representation and institutions that are fully equipped to carry out the will of the people. This measure is not about delaying democracy, rather it is about strengthening it. Let us view this reset as a commitment to genuine democracy, one where the people of BARM are able to participate fully, fairly, and confidently in choosing their leaders. Again, Mr. President, we vote yes to this measure. And Mr. President, on the other measure that we voted upon, Senate Bill number 1508, or DOH hospital bed capacity and Service Capability Rationalization Act. We extend our gratitude to our good sponsor, the chairperson of the Committee on Health and Demography, Senator Risa Ontiveros, for ensuring the smooth passage of this timely and much needed measure. By authorizing DOH to determine, set, adjust, and approve the authorized bed capacities and corresponding service capabilities of hospitals under its supervision and control, we take a decisive step toward rationalizing our health system, meaningfully address persistent overcrowding, and strengthen the delivery of quality health services nationwide. Again, Mr. President, we vote yes on this particular measure, and may God bless us all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
the
next
leader.
to explain their explanation of, give an explanation of vote is nobody else. No one, our distinguished colleague, Mr. President, no one, our distinguished colleague, Senator Robin Hood Padilla, Mr. President.
Senator Robin Padilla is recognized.
Maraming salamat po, Ginoong Pangulo at sa ating pinunong mayorya. Ang una pong pagpapaliwanag ay kaugnay po sa Senate Bill number 315, Senate Resolution 315, na ang akin pong mungkahi, Ginoong Pangulo, kaugnay po ito hinggil po sa paglilipat ng mga nahatulang bilanggo na aking kino-sponsor kahapon. Ako po ay bumoto ng yes with reservation. Ang aking reservasyon po ay dulot ng isang mungkahi para sa mas maingat at makatarungang pagpapatupad nito. Nauunawaan ko po na masusi ng napagdiskusyonan ang mga detalye ng kasunduan. At batid ko din po na bago magkaroon ng transfer, kinakailangan muna ng pahintulot o consent ng ililipat na bilanggo ng sentencing state o administering state. Kaugnay nito, nais kong imungkahi sa Department of Justice na sa mga pagkakataon ang nahatulang individual ay napatunayang nagkasala ng karumal-dumal o heinous crime, marapat ay pagdusahan muna niya ang kanyang sentensya ng ilang taon sa bansang nagpataw bago siya pahintulutang mailipat sa administering state. Ito po ay bunga ng aking karanasan sa Muntinlupa, sa Bilibid Prison, dahil marami po doon ng mga foreigner at meron din pong British doon na nakulong dati na pinatay niya yung kanyang kasintahan. At siya po ay nahatulan na makulong ng reclusion perpetua. Sana po ay bago siya pahintulutang mailipat doon sa kanyang bansa ay pagdusahan muna niya yung kanyang krimen doon sa minimum sentence. Huwag naman po kaagad na padadala doon. Alam naman po natin na masyadong ang kanilang kulungan doon sa bansang iyon ay masyadong komportable. Dahil Pilipina po, yung mga ganitong heinous crime, sana magdusa dito. At ganun din po, payag naman akong mailipat dun eh. Yung mga crime ay tinatawag namin sa loob na murder. Kung mga murder lang ang kaso, ibig sabihin yung umorder lang ng umorder, hindi nagbayad, pwede na ho yun ipadala doon. Sa ganitong paraan, ay mabibigyang diin ang paggalang ng soberenya ng sentencing state. Sa bigat ng krimeng ginawa at sa katarungang inaasahan ng mga biktima at ng kanilang mga pamilya. Kasabay nito, nananatiling bukas ang pinto para sa makataong konsiderasyon at rehabilitasyon sa ilalim ng administering state sa tamang panahon. Maraming salamat po. At ang pangalawang pagpapaliwanag po ay patungkol naman po sa Bangsamoro. Sa pagpapaliban at sa ngayon po ay itakda na ang botohan, ang eleksyon sa BARM. Ito po ay akin pong pinasasalamatan ang aming godfather, ang ating pong majority floor leader, Senator Mig Subiri, sapagkat alam niyo po, kami po ay hanga sa kanya, ang kamusliman, ang inyong Bangsamoro ay hanga po sa kanya, bagamat hindi po siya isang Muslim, pero ang kanyang pagmamahal sa amin ay sobra-sobra po. At nung huli po niyang hearing ay nakita namin kung paano niya ipinaglaban na magkaroon po ng mga future leader sa Bangsamoro na hindi tradisyonal. Yung galing naman po talaga doon sa mga matatawag natin na galing po sa mga common na tao na mamuno. Kaya po, tanggapin niyo po ang aming pasasalamat, Senator Mig Subiri. Kami po'y buong puso na nagpapasalamat sa pakikipaglaban niyo po para sa BARM. Mabuhay po kayo.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Maraming salamat din po kay Senator Joel Villanueva and of course, Senator Robin Hood Padilla. Aming adopted son ng Mindanao po yan, si Senator Robin Hood Padilla. And hopefully, may pasa din po itong panukala na to sa Kongreso ng third reading and may sa batas na po para kampante po ang ating mga kababayan sa BARM na magkakaroon na po ng halalan. Hindi na po ma-postpone at hindi na po mapagsamantala ang kanilang sitwasyon doon sa BARM. So thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we have two groups. Of course, winners in the last Southeast Asian Games that we have approved already as resolutions. May I just ask for the indulgence of the body to suspend session so that we can allow them to receive also their copies of the resolutions that we had approved last month, Mr. President. So with that, I move to suspend session for just a minute.
All right, yes, hearing no objection, the session is suspended. Majority Leader.
If I may, just very short manifestation, we'd like...
Senator Villanueva, yes, what is your
Thank you,
pleasure?
Mr. President. I just wanted to put into the records of this August Chamber the names of our guests today. The boxing team po natin, Ginoong Pangulo, yung isa sa mga naghakot ng pinakamaraming medalya para sa Pilipinas. Nag-uwi po sila ng kabuuang 10 medalya. Gold kay Yumir Marshall, 3 silver kay J. Brian Baricuatro, Flint Hara at Ira Villegas, at yung 6 na bronze po, nandito po si Ashley Fajardo, Well John Mindoro, Ofelia Magno, Riza Pasuit, Nesty Petesio at Hergy Bakyadan. At yung pong women's beach volleyball naman natin, Ginoong Pangulo, the Philippines victory was made possible by the formidable team of Bernadette Pons, Dij Rodriguez, Sunny Villapando, and of course Cici Rondina and Henesa S. Lapor. They ended, Mr. President, yung Thailand's 22-year reign and 8-time champion streak. Kaya we congratulate them and we thank our colleagues, especially our Senate President, for commending the efforts of our valiant athletes. Maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo.
Of course, thank you. Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, may we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Erwin Tulfo, for a brief manifestation.
Yes, Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Just a quick manifestation, Mr. President. I'd like to thank my colleagues in supporting the concurrence of the Treaty on the Transfer of Sentenced Persons between the Philippines and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland under Committee Report number 30, proposed resolution number 315. This treaty will allow Filipinos convicted of crimes in the UK to serve their remaining sentence in the Philippines and will facilitate their effective rehabilitation as they will be close to their families and friends and be with other inmates with whom they share the same language and culture. We will continue championing for treaties that will benefit our kababayans, Mr. President. Again, I express my gratitude to my colleagues in supporting this treaty. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move to... Oh, 1 second, Mr. President. Are you ready? Lisa, for all, President? I move that we take up bills for amendments. Mr. President, I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1822 under Committee Report number 28. I so move, Mr. President.
Not that I want it approved, but are you moving for the reference of business for later? I don't mind.
Well, we can make the Secretary work a bit today, Mr. President. So I withdraw my motion and I move for the reference of business, Mr. President.
Okay, so that we can proceed with the agenda. All right, the reference of business, the Secretary will proceed.
PS on first reading. Senate Bill number 1909, and promoting citizen-based crowdfunding for election campaigns and strengthening democratic campaign finance by Senator Aquino.
Referred to the Committee on Electoral Reforms.
1911, and providing for a comprehensive nursing law towards a quality healthcare system and promoting funds for a reading for a purpose of paragraph number 9170, otherwise known as the Philippine Nurse Act of 2002 by Senator De La Rosa.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Health, and Finance.
1912, and strengthening Philippine disaster risk financing, utilizing Philippine disaster risk financing and insurance strategy for public infrastructure assets and operating funds by Senator Subiri.
To the Committees on Finance, Public Works, and Ways and Means.
1913, and establishing a presidential merit scholarship program, providing funds for and further purposes by Senator Subiri.
To the Committees on Higher Education and Finance.
1914, and providing for a Magna Carta for information and communication technology professionals in government by Senator Villanueva.
To the Committees on Civil Service, Science and Technology, Ways and Means, and Finance.
1915, and rationalizing the benefits for the chairperson, commissioners, and labor arbiters of the National Labor Relations Commission, amending for the purpose of Decree number 442 for the Labor Code of Philippines as amended, paragraph number 910 as amended by Senator Villanueva, Villar M.
To the Committee on Labor and Finance.
1916, and reducing the rate of value-added tax from 12% to 10%, amending for the purpose sections 106, 107, and 108 of the National Internal Revenue Code 1997 as amended by Senator Villar M.
To the Committee on Ways and Means.
1918, an act amending the public number 11900, entitled an act regulating the importation, manufacture, sale, packaging, distribution, use, and communication on vaporized nicotine and non-nicotine products and novel tobacco products by Senator Padilla.
Referred to the Committees on Health and Trade.
Committee reports. Committee report number 37, prepared and submitted by the Committee on Migrant Workers on Senate Bill number 1910 by Senators Tulfo R., De La Rosa, Legarda, Estrada, Villar M., Tulfo E., and Villanueva as authors for titled, an act providing for free financial education to overseas Filipino workers and their families. Recommending approval, institution of Senate Bills number 90, 208, 806, 848, and 1270 by Senator Tulfo R.
To the calendar for ordinary business.
Committee report number 38, prepared and submitted jointly by the Committees on Banks, Financial Institutions, and Currencies, Migrant Workers, and Ways and Means on Senate Bill number 1917 with Senators Villar C., Estrada, Tulfo R., and Villanueva as authors therefore titled, an act providing for protection of the remittances of overseas Filipino workers. The approval of substitution numbers 181, 1074, and 1439 by Senator Villanueva.
To the calendar for ordinary business. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, we'd just like to also recognize a guest of Senator Padilla in the gallery, Councilor Dr. Ted Padilla Evangelista of Kidapawan City, Mr. President.
Okay,
Mr. President,
welcome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I move to resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1822 under Committee Report number 28. This is the bill on the National Plan of Action for Care, Support, and Inclusion of Persons with Autism and Spectrum Disorder. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1822 is in order.
Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, the sponsor may recognize Senator Risa Ontiveros and to propose amendments, Senator Win Gatchalian. If Senator Win is not here,
So the parliamentary status is that we're in the period
of amendments.
Amendments, all right.
and I believe some of our colleagues who propose to amend have already the list given to Senator Risa. So let's just recognize Senator Ontiveros, Mr. President.
Senator Risa Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, just briefly bago ko po ihain yung mga panukalang amyenda. The amendments before us today refine and strengthen Senate Bill number 1822, the National Autism Care, Support, and Inclusion Act. These proposed changes do not alter the heart of the measure. They deepen it. We align the bill with the Sustainable Development Goals to ensure that our commitments to persons with autism is not only compassionate but sustainable and measurable. We modernize definitions to reflect both science and dignity, recognizing neurodiversity, universal design, and the right of individuals on the autism spectrum to self-identify without hierarchy or stigma. We strengthen the National Plan of Action by requiring measurable targets, baseline service packages, geographic equity, and annual reporting to Congress, because inclusion must be accountable. We institutionalize coordination, not only among agencies, but with researchers, professional organizations, civil society, autism self-advocates, and families, ensuring that policymaking is evidence-based and participatory. We reinforce our health system by addressing workforce gaps, expanding PhilHealth coverage, integrating gender-responsive diagnostics, and establishing integrated referral networks. And we strengthen inclusion in education, employment, and community life through concrete mechanisms, not merely aspirational language. Mr. President, I would also like to sincerely thank Senators Pia Cayetano, Sherwin Gatchalian, Joel Villanueva, and Lauren Legarda for their thoughtful and substantive amendments, which have enriched this measure and made it more responsive, more accountable, and more inclusive. Likewise, we recognize the invaluable insights of autism self-advocates, parents groups, professionals, and civil society organizations whose lived experiences and expertise continue to guide us in crafting a law that truly reflects their realities. In sum, these amendments transform the bill from a statement of intent into a structured, measurable, and rights-based national framework. I respectfully submit these amendments for the consideration and support of this chamber. Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, yes, Mr. President.
Yes, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 2, Declaration of Policy, and this is from Senators Joel Villanueva and Pia Cayetano. On page 1, line 9, after the word screening, comma, insert the word diagnosis, comma.
You're amending line 9
Line 9, Mr.
after
President.
screening on line 8.
Sorry, Mr. President. Yes, I stand corrected, Mr. President. After the word screening on line 8.
On line 8, correct.
Yes, Mr. President. Insert the word diagnosis, comma. On the same page and line, after the word timely, insert the phrase and evidence-based. I so move, Mr. President.
Evidence-based. Anyway, any objection? Hearing none, amendments adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 1, still, line 10, after the word families, insert the following. In accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, for good health, quality education, decent work, and reduced inequalities. These policies, programs, and services shall contribute to sustainable development by building inclusive societies that leave no one behind, ensuring long-term equity, empowerment, and advancement for persons with ASD. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 3, definition of terms from this representation, on page 2, delete lines 6 to 10 and replace with the following.
6 to 10.
Yes, Mr. President. And replace with the following. A, autism or autism spectrum disorder, ASD, refers to a neurodevelopmental condition characterized by persistent differences in social communication and interaction, and restricted or repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities as recognized in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, and the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, where autism spectrum disorder is classified under neurodevelopmental disorders. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, line 11, after the abbreviation ASD, insert the following. References in this act to persons with autism spectrum disorder, or autistic persons shall be understood as equivalent and non-hierarchical, and shall not be construed to diminish the dignity, identity, or self-identification of individuals on the autism spectrum. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, between lines 21 and 22, insert a new subsection EF to read as follows. E, neurodivergent refers to individuals whose neurological development or functioning differs from what is typically expected, including but not limited to persons with autism spectrum disorder and other neurodevelopmental conditions recognized in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, DSM, or the World Health Organization International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, for purposes of determining appropriate supports and reasonable accommodations under this act. I so move, Mr. President.
This forms part of Section 3.
It forms part of Section 3, Mr.
All right.
President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Letter F, universal
Still
design.
on Section 3.
Yes,
Letter F. All right.
also of Section 3, Mr.
Go ahead.
President. Universal design refers to the design of products, environments, programs, and services to be usable by all people to to the greatest extent possible, without the need for adaptation or specialized design, consistent with internationally recognized disability frameworks and existing Philippine accessibility laws. Universal design may include sensory-inclusive design approaches that accommodate differences in sensory processing, cognition, and regulation, particularly in settings intended for individuals on the autism spectrum. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Still in Section 3, definition of terms. This is from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. On page 2, line 20, after the words Republic Act number 11650, insert the phrase, or the instituting a policy of inclusion and services for learners with disabilities in support of Inclusive Education Act. I so move, Mr. President.
All right. Yeah, no, the Secretariat and I were smiling because it's an anterior amendment, but it's okay.
I apologize, Mr.
No one is
President.
objecting. So any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you for the, I see now the error and the correction. Thank you for the correction,
all right, no
Mr.
problem.
President and dear Secretariat. On the same page, line 21, apologies, also an anterior amendment to the previous. After the word support, insert the phrase, aids and the implementation of the child fine system. So that section 3D shall now read as D. Inclusive education refers to the process of addressing and responding to the diversity of needs of all learners by ensuring full participation, presence, and achievement in learning environments, consistent with the Republic Act number 11650, or the Instituting a Policy of Inclusion and Services for Learners with Disabilities in Support of Inclusive Education Act, including the provision of reasonable accommodation and learning support aids and the implementation of the child fine system. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 4, National Plan of Action for Autism Spectrum Disorder, and this is from Senators Joel Villanueva, Lauren Ligarda, and this representation. On page 2, line 25, after the word screening, comma, insert the word diagnosis, comma. On the same page and line, after the word timely, insert the phrase and evidence-based. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 27, after appropriate social support for persons with ASD and their families, period, insert the following sentence. The plan shall provide for a baseline package of services accessible to persons with ASD and shall likewise provide a framework for needs-based service intensification, guided by objective criteria and rights-based safeguards to ensure equitable prioritization where service capacity is limited. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On page 2, line 30, after the sentence ending with budgets of relevant government agencies and sectors, period, insert a new paragraph to read as follows. From this representation, facilities, programs, and services established or supported under this Act shall be guided by accessibility and universal design principles, consistent with existing disability and accessibility laws, to promote inclusive and usable environments. Further, from Senator Lauren Ligarda, the plan shall include measurable targets and service capacity benchmarks for early detection, screening, diagnosis, and intervention services, including, as applicable, required geographic coverage, referral network standards, and time-bound access indicators such as maximum acceptable waiting periods from screening to assessment and initiation of intervention, with due consideration for geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas, GIDAS. The NCDA, in coordination with the DOH and concerned agencies, shall submit an annual implementation report to Congress detailing progress against these targets, service coverage gaps, and proposed corrective measures. I so move, Mr. President.
GIDAS will be in
Geographically
open and close
isolated.
parentheses.
Yes, Mr. President, in
All
close
right.
parentheses.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 5, Interagency and Multisectoral Coordination for Planning and Implementation. This is from Senator Pia Cayetano and this representation. On page 3, line 1, after the word with, insert the Department of Health, in parentheses DOH, Department of Education, in parentheses DepEd, Commission on Higher Education, in parentheses CHED, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, in parentheses TESDA, Department of Labor and Employment, in parentheses DOLE, Civil Service Commission, in parentheses CSC, Department of the Interior and Local Government, in parentheses DILG, Department of Social Welfare and Development, in parentheses DSWD, other. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the same page, line 2, after the abbreviation in parentheses LGUs, add the words and in consultation with relevant. I so move, Mr. President.
That means in consultation with relevant civil society organizations.
Yes, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. The first paragraph of Section 5 will now read as, the NCDA shall lead in the formulation of the National Plan of Action for Autism Spectrum Disorder in coordination with the Department of Health, DOH, Department of Education, DepEd, Commission on Higher Education, CHED, Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, TESDA, Department of Labor and Employment, DOLE, Civil Service Commission, CSC, Department of Interior and Local Government, DILG, Department of Social Welfare and Development, DSWD, other concerned national government agencies, local government units, LGUs, and in consultation with relevant civil society organizations, autism self-advocates, parents groups, and other stakeholders.
As adopted. All right.
Yes, Mr. President.
You may proceed.
Thank you. In Section 5, interagency and multisectoral coordination for planning and implementation. From this representation. On page 3, between lines 3 and 4, insert a new paragraph that reads as follows. The NCDA, in coordination with the DOH, shall strengthen collaboration with academic and research institutions, including the University of the Philippines National Institutes of Health, UPNIH, in parentheses, the Jose R. Reyes Memorial Medical Center, in parentheses JRRMMC, and the National Center for Mental Health, in parentheses NCMH, and professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopmental disorder to support autism research, surveillance, data collection, and evidence-based policymaking. Such collaboration shall include, but not be limited to, the establishment of research partnerships, data sharing mechanisms, and the integration of research findings into the plan. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 6, Early Detection, Screening, and Diagnosis, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian and this representation. From this representation, on page 3, line 12, after the word protocols, insert comma and the phrase, including approaches that are gender responsive and attentive to sex-based differences in clinical presentation in order to reduce the risk of delayed or missed diagnosis among women and girls. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. From Senator Gatchalian, on the same page, line 14, after the word professionals, insert comma and the word specialists. Section 6 shall now read as Section 6, Early Detection, Screening, and Diagnosis. The Department of Health, DOH, shall integrate ASD detection and screening, referral, and diagnostic protocols, including approaches that are gender responsive and attentive to sex-based differences in clinical presentation, in order to reduce the risk of delayed or misdiagnosis among women and girls, into primary health care, maternal and child health programs, and other appropriate health services, and shall develop standards and shall develop standard clinical guidelines and training programs for healthcare professionals, specialists, and workers. I so move, Mr. President.
Editorial amendment,
Yes,
you
Mr.
no
President.
longer need the comma after specialists, right?
Um,
Yes.
Grammarians debate that, Mr. President, but this representation,
specialists
of
and
course,
workers.
will submit.
All right. Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this point, Mr. President, I will cede the floor to Senator Joel Villanueva to read his proposed amendment.
Senator Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you to our dear colleague who's been working double time for this very important measure, Mr. President. Mr. President, before I introduce this amendment in page 3, lines after line 14, Mr. President, may I just put into the records, Mr. President, as we have been talking extensively with the sponsor, with Senators Gatchalian, Senator Pia Cayetano, and the rest of our colleagues here. Mr. President, may we just put into the records of this August Chamber, how many, distinguished sponsor, if we have the numbers, how many development pediatricians do we have in the country? Because I have encountered, Mr. President, in one of the articles that we have got into, Mr. President, that there are only 109 development pediatricians in the country. And as I mentioned earlier, Mr. President, during the course of debates, Mr. President, this representation had experienced extremely difficult experience of looking for development pediatrician. And that's why this particular measure is very personal for this representation, Mr. President. Maybe no, Mr. President, if indeed it is correct to say that there are only, and the records will bail me out, and I am ready to be corrected, if there are only 109 development pediatricians in the country. Because in my experience, Mr. President, there are only 2. During the time that we were going back and forth to different hospitals in Metro Manila, there are only 2 developmental pediatricians, namely Dr. Dimalanta and Dr. Reyes, Mr. President. So I'm glad to actually find out that there are 109. I don't know if this is a correct figure, Mr. President. Is that correct, Your Honor, distinguished sponsor?
Mr. President, the good gentleman from Bulacan has demonstrated another reason that the bill is important. Pati yung database po, hindi pin down talaga. Kung dalawa lang, and so named by the good gentleman, or talagang 109. Kahit pa nga po umabot na tayo sa 109, napakaliit po ng proportion sa 117 million Filipinos, Mr. President.
Exactly, Mr. President. And if you look at the data that we have encountered, the 100 in the total 109 developmental pediatricians, 70+% are actually in Metro Manila. And so, tama po kayo, Ginoong Pangulo, napakahalaga nitong panukalang batas na ito. But at the same time, let me also put into the record, Mr. President, na mahirap, hindi ho madali yung diagnosis. Especially, and I'm glad that to see Section 6, yung early detection, screening, and the diagnosis, Mr. President. But if you have a child undergoing diagnosis, Mr. President, I know that the good sponsor would agree with this representation. It will take you at least 1 year, Mr. President, at least 1 year to be diagnosed and say that a particular child is actually under the spectrum. Unfortunately, Mr. President, when I made mention about the 2 developmental pediatricians, in order for you to get an appointment with them, it will take you 1 year, Mr. President, to get an appointment alone. And hindi pa ho ito nagagawa yung diagnosis. Sa isang session, hindi naman po kaagad ma-determine na ang isang bata ay nandoon sa spectrum ng autism. So, Mr. President, I'm just wondering if we have a data right now, Mr. President, kung ilan na yung na-diagnose at kung meron din pong data. Kasi, this, as I mentioned, this is kind of personal to me. Meron po bang data na ilan yung na-diagnose, ilan yung hindi na-diagnose, Mr. President?
But before you answer, did we get it right? The actual number is 109?
Actually, Mr. President, it's impossible to confirm that we actually have that many.
That many, yeah.
109 is actually too few for 117 million Filipinos.
What is
But
the
since-
what is the ideal ratio?
Okay. Ideally, Mr. President, it should be within the universal healthcare framework. It should be 1:100,000. Pero iba't ibang specialization.
Layo.
Of various
Layo, no?
specializations, Mr. President. But proportional, I guess, dun sa alam din nating ratio ng 1 out of 1 million ba? That on the average, 1 out of 1 million Filipinos or citizens of any country could possibly be on the ASD spectrum, Mr. President.
Yes. So go ahead and answer the
So
original
we are
the latter
pulling
question.
up the, yes, Mr. President, I'm just pulling up my data from the earlier, as of our latest data, Mr. President, there are only 95,000 who have been diagnosed.
Diagnosed.
Opo, and it might be a case of under-reporting or under-diagnosis dahil nga kulang pa ng up to this point in time isang comprehensive program ng DOH to assist families and parents to diagnose and to choose whether or not to intervene.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. You see,
What level?
yes, that's what I'm about to ask,
hindi
Mr.
ba,
President.
hindi lang basta the number, also
And
the
you're
level.
only talking, Mr. President, of 90,000, while 95,000, while the numbers don't lie that there are about 1.2, 1.4 million, Mr. President, under this spectrum. We don't know the numbers, Mr. President. That's why this is very important. And the thing that I'd like to raise right now, Mr. President, is to at least figure out how to actually detect and diagnose, Mr. President, yung mga bata na hindi nadadiagnose. I'm not even asking, Mr. President, yung improperly diagnosed, Mr. President. Sinabing hindi nasa spectrum pero nasa spectrum pala. I'm sure we don't have that figures right now unless...
We don't have the complete figures, Mr. President, but a little more detail that I could make of record with the good gentleman from Bulacan. Sa rehistro at yung mga na-issuehan ng ID, and na-issue ng ID, ilang porsyento lang kaya yun, mula 2021 hanggang 2025, may kabuoang bilang ng 98,245 ang nasa ASD spectrum. So yun lamang yung exact figure that we have as of the end of last year, Mr. President. At malamang talaga underreported or underdiagnosed itong bilang na ito, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. President. I'll go to my amendments, Mr. President, and I just wanted to put this on record so that when our friends from DOH and the different agencies of the government will look into this particular measure for our IRR, they would find out why we are debating or discussing these very important issues, Mr. President. Mr. President, with the indulgence of our dear colleague, may I introduce on page 3 after line 14, insert a new section, section 7, to read as follows. Section 7, ASD professionals and specialists to ensure the effective implementation of this act and the delivery of timely, appropriate, and quality healthcare services for persons with ASD, the DOH, in coordination with the CHED, NCDA, CSC, PRC, and other concerned agencies, shall develop and implement a strategic plan to ensure the adequate number, competency, and equitable distribution of developmental pediatricians, developmental psychologists, child neurologists, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and other qualified health professionals and specialists as may be identified by the DOH nationwide. The DOH and CHED shall closely coordinate and effectively implement measures to strengthen education, training, certification, recruitment, and retention programs to address workforce gaps and ensure accessible ASD-related services across all regions. And we will move also to renumber the subsequent sections accordingly if our good sponsor would agree to this representation.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted.
Before that,
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Pia Cayetano is raising her hand. What is the pleasure of Senator Cayetano?
Thank you, Mr. President. With the indulgence of my two colleagues, I am totally supportive of the amendment being proposed by the senator from Bulacan. I may not have caught the exact wording, but may we confirm from both the sponsor and the proponent if we know for a fact that it is CHED who is in charge when we're already talking about specializations and subspecialties, because from what this representation knows, that is no longer the ambit of CHED. And, or if it is, they rely heavily on the professional association. So we might be now giving CHED a new job. A quick search tells me that it is not. It is no longer part of their mandate. So can we just check that? Because I fully support that somebody should be in charge. This representation, along with the presiding officer, the Senate President, and the proponent, Senator Joel, are the main supporters of the the growth of the medical colleges in this university. So we are one in our goal. But we just want, and maybe that's part of the problem because no one is taking the lead. Nagsusupport nga tayo ng more doctors in medical school, pero itong mga specializations, baka medyo kulang sa direksyon. So 100% in support of this amendment, but let's be clear kung whose job it is, who determines the numbers. Maybe it's even more DOH. And then maybe CHED will be working with the professional organizations. I don't know exactly, but I'd like our honors here to consider this input. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And if I may, Mr. President, in the amendment that we are introducing, the good gentle lady from Taguig and Patera, Senator Cayetano, is correct. That when you talk about the curriculum, Mr. President, it's under the Commission on Higher Education. And in this particular case, we wanted to include the PRC so that they would come in and ensure that they're regulating the Professional Regulation Commission would be regulating these associations, this or professional organization, Mr. President. And the last but not the least, Mr. President, the main point that we are trying to drive at, Mr. President, is the fact that there are so very few developmental pediatricians na sila pa po, Mr. President, tanging sila lang ang makakapag-pinpoint at magsasabi that a child is in the spectrum. Pero may mga ilan po na po pwede silang itap as being overseen, may oversight function naman ng DOH, na maaari, Mr. President, na may mga ilan po na professionals that they can actually pinpoint, Mr. President, that a certain child is in the spectrum, Mr. President. And that's just what we wanted to accomplish. Not, Mr. President, in any way na mag-overlap, Mr. President, or pakikialaman natin yung developmental pediatricians when it comes to treatment, Mr. President. So it's just the identification, Mr. President, and screening, Mr. President, that a child is actually in the spectrum, Mr. President. I submit, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Ontiveros, this sponsor.
in relation to the point raised by Senator Pia Cayetano, the good proponent may wish to consider this as an amendment to his amendment. That on that fifth line, coordination with the CHED, NCDA, CSC, PRC, the good gentleman from Bulacan may wish to consider also to include the Jose Reyes Memorial Medical Center as a national specialty center. For the consideration of the proponent.
Yes, Mr. President, we fully support that, Mr. President. So.
Senator Cayetano, you are originally concerned about the inclusion of CHED. So what is your
Yes.
pleasure?
No, so can we be clarified now what is the role of CHED? Because currently, CHED is only in charge of the curriculum of
Yes.
basic medical education. So
Yes.
is his on? You're not. His honor is not trying to amend that.
No,
'Cause
we're not.
That's why
We're
I said,
not. We're not.
can we see the whole so
Yeah.
we can also help craft the proper language. Who will be in charge? Was there a mention of the?
It will just be, Mr. President, in coordination with CHED because they are the ones in charge of the medical curriculum, Mr. President.
All right. And the idea being mentioned by the
Yes.
sponsor also, well, yes, but isn't it not very clear when we say healthcare services with persons with ASD, the DOH in coordination with
CHED.
yung binabanggit yung hospital, under the DOH yun eh. So
yes,
when
that
we
is
say
correct.
the DOH, it's encompassing of everything under the Department of Health.
That is correct, Mr. President, but I offered it as a proposed amendment to the amendment of the proponent dahil po ang JRMMC ay isang National Specialty Center na in charge din sa training nung mga medical professionals and specialists, including developmental pediatricians, Mr. President. Just for the consideration of the good proponent.
I don't mind, Mr.
We'll leave it
President.
to the proponent.
I don't mind, Mr. President.
You will accept that.
Of course,
But
Mr.
let us
President.
wait for the proposal of Senator Cayetano because that was ahead. Senator Pia Cayetano.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a long provision, no? So thank you for the copy. I'm okay with it, Mr. President, because basically it's a very general statement that DOH shall develop and implement a strategic plan. So DOH can still work with all of these
Yes.
other agencies. But I heard that His Honor, or is it Her Honor, that mentioned PRC, because PRC should be involved. Is that the latest amendment?
It is part of this amendment. The
Okay, so there's a PRC.
Professional Regulatory Commission.
And then finally, the medical societies, because it is actually the medical societies who make the curriculum. Apparently, because they make the curriculum and then they're the ones who work with PRC, I believe, in the exam. So the accreditation also comes from them. So I think you have to mention the medical society, the appropriate medical society. In this case, it is the pediatric society, but the developmental pediatrics is a sub-society of the pediatric society. So they have a formal name. You can just look it up. It's easy to find. Pediatric. Anyway, they have an official name. We might as well name them because they're the official. They're the official organization for this specialization.
I think it's
Thank you.
Philippine Society
Philippine
for
Pediatric
Developmental
Society.
and Behavioral Pediatrician.
Yeah. But I suggest that you include their mother society because lahat nung kailangan na professionals ng isang autistic child would fall under pediatrics pa rin. So pediatrics, the Philippine Pediatrics Society, I think that's their name, and that subspecialization, subject to style. That's my recommendation, Mr. President.
Mr.
Philippine
President,
Pediatric Society.
if
Yes,
I may-
Senator Tiberos.
If I may offer a formulation to the gentlewoman from Taguigan Pateros and the proponent, they may wish to consider the wording professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopment disorders.
Mas okay.
Professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopmental disorders, Mr. President.
I'm okay with that.
Okay ba yun? Professional organizations
Para mas
specializing.
Well, it becomes inclusive of almost everybody involved in the medical society. If you're accepting that, I just want to know where you want to place it. After CHED or after PRC?
After PRC siguro.
Before other concerned agencies?
Yes, Mr. President. I think.
Huh? So after PRC?
Yes.
And you're accepting the amendment proposed
Mr.
by
President.
Senator Hontiveros to your amendment that was initiated by Senator Pia Cayetano.
Accepted, Mr. President.
Accepted.
Wholeheartedly.
One more, Senator Pia Cayetano. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. We note that the mention of PRC is in the first part of Section 7, but the second in His Honor's amendment, but the last sentence, the second part of Section 7, states the DOH and CHED shall closely coordinate and effectively implement measures. We believe that PRC should also be here in this enumeration, DOH and CHED in coordination with PRC. So that is my amendment, Mr. President. Because to take note that what is being mentioned here is the effective implementation of education, training, certification.
Yes.
Wait, let's take this one by one.
But it's one amendment, Mr. President, so I have to mention it here.
Yes, I know. But let us finish off the first amendment. Will you be acceptable to that proposal?
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay na, yung original, no?
Yes.
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 After, what's
After
that?
the PRC, Mr. President.
After PRC. All right, so let's deal with that. Any objection? Adopted. But we continue with the amendment because Senator Pia Cayetano, what line?
Ano bang, wala pa yatang line to, Mr.
Last
President. It's
sentence.
an amendment.
Last sentence.
The last sentence
Which?
that starts with the DOH and
DOH.
CHED.
Uh-huh.
So I think I will phrase my amendment this way. After the word CHED, insert the phrase in coordination with PRC.
Uh-huh. In coordination with PRC.
Or PRC.
All right.
The
What does
DOH.
the proponent of the amendment say?
Subject to style, yes, Mr.
Subject
President.
to style. What does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. President.
Accepted. Any objection? Hearing none, adopted. But, in total, subject to style.
Yes.
You move to
Yes.
amend.
Yes, Mr. President. I so move, Mr. President.
All right. As amended, subject to style. Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Yes,
You
Mr.
may-
President.
you
Last
may
but not
proceed.
last but not the least, Mr. President. And again, this is very fruitful, Mr. President, as our friends from the different government agencies will look into this matter. In Section 7, now renumbered as Section 8 on health and intervention services, may we introduce, Mr. President, on page 3, delete lines 15 to 19 and replace it with the following paragraph. Health and intervention services. The DOH, in coordination with the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation, PhilHealth, and other concerned agencies, shall ensure adequate and equitable coverage and the progressive availability and accessibility of evidence-based assessment, diagnostic, and intervention services for ASD in public health facilities, establish functional and integrated referral networks across all levels of care, and align service delivery with existing health systems to promote continuity, quality, and affordability of care. I submit, Mr. President.
What does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted. Approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to put on record, Mr. President, we wanted to make sure na may periodic review po yung pong assessment ng ating PhilHealth dun po sa mga benepisyong binibigay sa kanila. Mr. President, for the record, yung pong Z benefits package ng PhilHealth, last 2017 pa po ito, Mr. President, at doon po sa nakapaloob na Z benefit package, therapy and assessment lang po yung nakalagay dito. I hope na magawan po natin ang paraan. Nakikiusap po ang isa sa mga magulang ng mga pasok po dito sa autism spectrum, Mr. President. In fact, Mr. President, if you think about it, Senator Pia and I are talking about it a while ago, kung kasama ba talaga sa Z benefits package ng PhilHealth itong mga kababayan po natin na nasa autism spectrum. And ang sagot naman po ay kasama po. But let me also put that on record. And that the good sponsor, Senator Ontiveros, is nodding her head. Nakasama po talaga, Mr. President. But unfortunately, Mr. President, napakababa po ng coverage nito, Mr. President. If I'm not mistaken, sa isang therapy, for example, occupational therapy, hanggang 3,000 to 5,000 lang po ang coverage, Mr. President. Imagine nyo, Mr. President, yung therapy na kailangan ng isang bata ay panghabang buhay po yan, Mr. President. It's really not easy, Mr. President. At napakahalaga po na ang PhilHealth ay maging proactive dito sa mga bagay na ito at ma-provide po nila ng ASD services under the Z Benefits Package itong mga kababayan natin na tinatayang 1 out of 100 Filipino, Mr. President. Yun ho yung ilan sa mga articles na na-encounter natin. Maraming salamat,
And
Ginoong
Mr.
Pangulo, at muli sa ating distinguished sponsor.
Salamat
Alright.
din, good gentleman from Bulacan. Just to make of record also, the value ng PhilHealth benefit package para sa mga persons with autism or nasa autism spectrum disorder is actually at 7,500 pesos.
I'm sorry, how much?
Napakababa rin, 7,500 lang po. At talagang it's dwarfed by, naalala ko yung statistic na ibinigay nung interpellation ni Senator J.V. Ejercito na maaring umabot sa 100,000, no, ang kabuuang gastos sa isang buong taon. So, what's 7,500 compared to that, Mr. President? Kailangan
Maraming
talagang
salamat po,
itaas.
Ginoong Pangulo. Maraming
All
salamat.
right, but I understand that you have a proposed amendment to this effect.
Yes, Mr. President, it's actually the next one.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. In a new Section 9, PhilHealth coverage and benefit package for persons with autism spectrum disorder. This is consolidating and harmonizing proposed amendments from Senators Lauren Legarda, Sherwin Gatchalian, Joel Villanueva, and this representation. On page 3, after line 19, insert a new Section 9 that reads as follows. Section 9, PhilHealth coverage and benefit packages. Persons with autism spectrum disorder, in parentheses ASD, shall be recognized as persons with disability for purposes of access to benefits and privileges under existing laws, including Republic Act No. 11-22-8 and other applicable statutes. The DOH, the NCDA, PhilHealth, and the LGUs shall establish and implement mechanisms to facilitate the registration of persons with ASD in the DOH Philippine Registry of Persons with Disability, in parentheses PRPWD, and ensure the timely issuance of disability identification cards subject to existing rules and safeguards. PhilHealth, in coordination with the DOH and the NCDA, shall develop, enhance, and periodically review benefit packages responsive to ASD-related health, rehabilitation, habilitation, and intervention needs, including appropriate inpatient and outpatient coverage, consistent with Republic Act No. 11-22-3 or the Universal Healthcare Act. Pending such development or enhancement, persons with ASD shall continue to avail of existing PhilHealth benefits and packages, and renumber the subsequent sections accordingly. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, the amendment is approved and adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 8, renumbered as Section 10, Inclusive and Appropriate Education, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. On page 3, line 24, after the word support, insert the word AIDS. I so move, Mr. President.
And learning support aids.
AIDS,
Learning
Mr.
support
President.
aids.
Yes,
It's
Mr.
part of the phrase.
Yes, Mr. President.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. In Section 9, renumbered as Section 11, Employment and Livelihood, from this representation. On page 3, line 30, after the words disability laws, insert comma and the phrase, including the promotion of reasonable accommodations for neurodivergent individuals in the workplace, consistent with prevailing labor, disability, and occupational health standards. I so move, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor at this point to the good gentleman from Pampanga and Tarlac to propose his amendments, Mr. President.
Senator Dante Marcoleta is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, Section 12 of the proposed measure provides for the prohibited acts, which reads as follows. Section 12 prohibited acts. It shall be unlawful for any person, entity, or government agency to discriminate against, deny, or impede the rights of persons with ASD, including but not limited to their rights to dignity, health care, inclusive education, employment, livelihood, social protection, and participation in decisions affecting their welfare. However, Mr. President, there is no penal provision included in the proposed bill. So I wish that we could propose the following penal clause, Mr. President. On page 4, between lines 14 and 15, insert a new section 13 to provide for the penal clause to read as follows. Section 13, penal clause. A, any person who violates any prohibited acts mentioned under Section 12 of this Act shall suffer the following penalties. 1. For the first violation, a fine of not less than 50,000 pesos, but not exceeding 100,000 pesos, or imprisonment of not less than 6 months, but not more than 2 years, or both at the discretion of the court. And 2, for any subject violation, a fine of not less, or for any subsequent violation, a fine of not less than 100,000 pesos, but not exceeding 200,000 pesos, or imprisonment for less than 2 years, but not more than 6 years, or both at the discretion of the court. B, if the violator is a government official or employee, he or she shall be administratively liable in addition to fine or imprisonment. C, if the violator is a corporation, organization, or any similar entity, the officials thereof directly involved shall be liable therefore. D, if the violator is an alien or a foreigner, he shall be deported immediately after service of sentence without further deportation proceedings. Mr. President, the proposed penal provision is in line with those specified under Republic Act number 77 or the Magna Carta for disabled persons. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, will the proponent make the motion?
I move, Mr. President, that the proposed penal clause be added or be an amendatory provision of the proposed bill, Mr. President.
Accepted,
What
Mr.
does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Are you sure?
I'm sure, Mr.
May we
President.
have 1 minute suspension? May we request Senator Dante Marcoleta to restate the proposed amendment, subject to the amendment being proposed by the sponsor?
Thank you, Mr. President. On the basis of our discussion, this representation is of the opinion that we should remove the imprisonment aspect, just the civil aspect of the penal clause that is being proposed for amendment, Mr. President.
And retain the fines that
Yes,
you have
Mr.
proposed.
President. Yes.
All right. Subject to style. What does the sponsor say?
Accepted, Mr. President, with thanks
Accepted.
to the senator from
Thank you, Senator.
Bulacan.
Any objection? Hearing none, adopted. Amendments approved.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And lastly, in Section 14, renumbered as Section 16, implementing rules and regulations from this representation. On page 4, line 26, after the word civil society organizations, comma, insert the words professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopment disorders to read as follows. Section 16, implementing rules and regulations. Within 90, in parentheses, numerals 90, days from the effectivity of this act, the NCDA, in consultation with the DOH, JRRMMC, PhilHealth, DepEd, CHED, TESDA, DOLE, CSC, DSWD, LGUs, other concerned government agencies, civil society organizations, professional organizations specializing in neurodevelopment disorders, autism self-advocates, parents groups, and other stakeholders shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations. I so move, Mr. President.
I seldom do this, but I think you should. Well, if you believe that this will be strong enough, my experience is oras na nag-IRR tayo at hindi natin specify dito, pinakikialaman eh ng mga mag-IRR eh.
I submit to the advice of the good Senate President.
Yes, I think we should not mention it, if you don't mind.
I believe, Mr. President.
I've seen it. I've seen it in many laws that we have, many bills that we have passed that become into law. Sometimes we could not effectively implement the law because the IRR is not finished.
Not
You know,
released
mataon eh.
or contrary to what is embodied in the law,
Correct.
Mr. President.
Correct. Sometimes
So
it
maybe we
happens.
can take out if with the permission of the good sponsor, maybe we can just take out the provision which mentions the IRR.
Yes, Mr. President, I'm willing to not move
Please.
to
Yes,
propose this
and
amendment.
the best
Mr.
thing is
President.
for the Committee on Health to exercise oversight over this particular bill. That will be
That is a
better
good,
than an
that is a
IRR.
good amendment, Mr. President.
We'll do
that
so,
will
Mr.
be-
President.
All right. Thank
No
you.
more,
Thank you then.
No further amendments, Mr.
No
President.
further amendments, Majority Leader. I think it will be ideal for us to have a clean copy before we approve on second reading.
I'll just move
because
to
of the
close,
many-
Mr. President, I'll move to close the period of amendments. If
Yes. All
the
right.
body will agree. Mr. President, with the permission of the body, I move to close the period of amendments.
Any objection? Hearing none. Period of amendments closed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We move to suspend consideration of the measure and wait for the clean copy of the bill.
All right. Hearing no objection, the consideration of 1822 is suspended.
We also like
Thank you,
to
Mr.
make,
President.
with the permission of the author, Senator Marcoleta would like to also be made co-author of the measure, Mr. President. So for the record,
Senator Marcoleta is
Yes, Mr. President.
made a co-author of the measure.
thank you, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Thank you. It's now suspended. Therefore, we move to the next item on the agenda, Mr. President. I move that we resume consideration of Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26. I so move. Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none. 1744. Consideration is in order.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva, to sponsor
Senator Joel
and
Villanueva,
propose
the
amendments.
sponsor of the measure, is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, Majority Leader. Mr. President, we are ready to receive individual amendments from our dear colleagues, Mr. President, and I think, Your Honor, the distinguished Senate President would like to introduce an amendment, Mr. President.
Session is suspended. The President pro tem is asked to assent to the rostrum.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are ready to receive proposed amendments from our dear colleagues. May we yield the floor to our good Senate President, Mr. President.
To introduce his amendments, the Senate President is recognized. One minute suspension.
Thank you. Will the distinguished gentleman from Bulacan favor us by receiving some of the proposed amendments? We will
Most definitely, Mr. President, will be honored to hear the wisdom of our good Senate President, Mr. President.
If there are no anterior amendments, I'd like to propose an amendment on page 4, line 17.
Yes, Mr. President, there are no amendments from page 1 to 3. So we proceed with the page 4, line
Yes.
17, if not.
Line
I'm not mistaken.
17,
Thank you.
the letter D.
Letter D.
I propose that we replace it with not state any detail about the debt except the fact of its existence necessary for any lawful purpose without disclosing the terms of the contract of loan.
We accept, Mr. President.
In objection, amendment is approved.
On page 6, line 26, to continue, Mr.
Page
President,
6.
somehow,
Mr. President, may I introduce, I think Senator Marcoleta is introducing an amendment on page 5,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
President.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
Ako na babasa. Ako na ba? Teka lang Okay, should I, ako na? Mr. President, I'll be the one to read the proposed amendment by our distinguished colleague, Senator Marcoleta. On page 5, after line 3, after the word agreement, insert the following: such as by undergoing mediation, arbitration, or other forms of alternative dispute resolution, or by filing the appropriate complaint before the proper court, among other reconciliatory or judicial means. This representation, as the sponsor of the measure, would like to put on record that we accept the proposed amendment introduced by Senator Marcoleta.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
We can entertain the proposed amendment of our distinguished Senate President on page 7, Mr. President.
Page 6.
Page 6, sorry, page 6.
Page 6, actually, this is somehow an editorial amendment. Replace the word communication with the word communicating.
Accept, Mr. President, we accept.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Now, on page 7, Mr. President, to continue, line 30 to 31. My question is that will the bank honor the deposit of a post-dated check prior to the date indicated therein? I don't think so. Well, if no,
We agree.
why will we make criminal an act that has no effect? So I propose to delete letter C.
Yes, Mr. President, we agree with the Senate President, but what we are focusing here is the act of threatening, Mr. President.
Akala ko may counter sila rin.
So, Mr. President, we are amenable to deleting the depositing word, Mr. President.
Deleting the
Depositing or.
depositing or threatening. Yes.
Yes.
The entire letter C.
We wanted to retain, Mr. President, the threatening.
Okay.
Because we are only after the act
sige,
of threatening.
depositing. Okay,
Yes,
all right.
Mr. President.
I accept, Mr. President, just to delete.
Kindly read the whole amendment on line 30 and 31.
Line 30. My proposed amendment was to delete it, but apparently, because of the explanation, I will propose to delete depositing or.
Or.
Yes.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President.
On page 9, if no anterior amendment on page 8,
Nothing, Mr. President. Nothing ba?
on page 9, I propose to add the, on lines 12 to 14, no? Lines 12 to 14, I propose to add the following words: that either the creditor or the debtor took the matter to court. This will be in lines 13 to 14 to read as follows. So it will now read as follows. The debtor, after they have informed the debt collector through any verifiable means that the debt is in dispute and that either the creditor or the debtor took the matter to court.
We accept, Mr. President. That makes it clearer, Mr. President. Thank you. We accept.
Are you also deleting the word is after debt?
Yeah. No.
That the debt is in dispute? Are you also proposing to delete
That
the
the
word
debt-
is?
12.
Yes, or the debt took the matter to
Kindly read the amendment for the
is in
record.
dispute. No, we retain it, Mr. President.
Retain.
That the debt is in dispute and
Yes,
that either
yes.
the creditor or debtor took the matter to court.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Alright.
should be the correct
Yes.
construction. Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. To continue, on page 10,
Page
line
10.
12.
9, 12.
Page 10, line 12. At the end of the sentence, add the phrase, without the consent of the debtor.
We accept, Mr. President.
Any objection? Hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor. And on page 12, if there are no interior amendments on the page
There
11.
are none, Mr. President. Yes, we go to
On page
12.
12, line 7,
9, 7. Upon the request.
replace line 7 until the semicolon, from the word upon up to the semicolon, replace it with, upon the request of the debtor, the debt collector shall have a complete accounting of all the details of the debt, semicolon, provided that
If I may, Mr. President, instead of have A, can we if the proponent would agree to delete have a and instead shall provide, Mr. President, if that's amenable to the distinguished Senate President.
Shall have, you will, you want to use shall provide.
Shall provide, Mr. President.
I have no objection, Mr. President. I accept, I adopt.
Thank you, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you.
And again, to continue, page 14,
Page
line 27.
14. Yes, page 14.
Line 27.
Line 27.
After the word department, insert the words with actual human agents and not merely machines or bots.
We accept, Mr. President.
Comma.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. And finally, on page 15, after section 22,
Ano pang isa? Page 20.
after the separability clause, add a new section to read as follows.
I believe
Good.
Senator
Mr.
Gatchalian has an
President,
amendment
sorry,
on page
there is
14. Page 14, Senator Gatchalian.
yes,
I'm sorry.
yes, we have a
Page 15. Go ahead. There is
yes,
a amendment.
thank you, Mr. President. On page, this is from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. On page 14, line 27, change the word who to which. We accept, Mr. President.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
Which shall be responsible. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, there's another one anterior, Mr. President, on page 15, between lines 2 and 3, from Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, insert the following paragraph. The section shall have a dedicated complaints desk to address violations of this act. The section shall act on complaints received through its complaints desk within 5 working days from receipt thereof. Failure of the responsible public official or employee to act on any complaint within the prescribed period shall constitute simple neglect of duty, subject to the filing of the appropriate administrative action based on prevailing Civil Service Commission rules and regulations, provided that in cases where the cause of delay is due to force majeure or other analogous circumstances, the prescribed period mandated herein shall be suspended and appropriate adjustments shall be made, provided further that in such cases of justifiable delay, the responsible public official or employee shall notify the complainant of the reason for the delay and the adjusted period to act on the complaint. We accept the proposed amendment of Senator Gatchalian, Mr.
In
President.
objection, hearing none, approved.
Another one, Mr. President, from Senator Gatchalian on page 15, between lines 2 and 3, insert a new section, section 20, which shall read as follows. Section 20, Information and Education Campaign. The section shall conduct a continuing information and education campaign to inform the general public of their rights under this act. The section shall inform, the SEC, SEC, shall inform financial consumers of how to identify abusive, deceptive, and unfair debt collection practices and how to avail of rights such as request for issuance of receipts, request for accounting, use of loan cost calculator, and available redress mechanisms. We accept the proposed amendment by Senator Gatchalian. Mr.
In
President.
objection, hearing none, approved.
We yield the floor to our dear Senate President.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Sponsor. On page 15, Your Honor, after section 22, add a new section to read as follows. Good faith requirement. The protections under this act shall only apply to debtors who invoke them in good faith and shall not be available to those who invoke such protections for the purposes of evading payment of the obligation.
We accept, Mr. President, as this is very important to, again, emphasize na ang utang ay isang obligasyon, Mr. President. we accept.
In objection, hearing none, approved.
And renumber the succeeding sections, Mr. President.
So renumbered.
I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Your Honor, thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Mr. Senate President. Mr. President, one last or two more. One last proposed amendment from our dear colleague, Senator Gatchalian. On page 15, line 20, delete the words at least 2 national papers and replace it with in a newspaper. So the sentence shall now read as follows. This act shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation. We accept, Mr. President.
Any objection, hearing none, approved.
Mr. President, we just would like to make a short manifestation, just a clarification on why our proposed measures does not contain an IRR provision. The committee envisioned the bill to be implemented at face value. That is why we made the provisions as clear as possible. We note that the crafting of the IRR usually causes delay in the implementation of our laws. So, Mr. President, in doing so, we will ensure that the measure will not remain dormant after passage. It reinforces legislative intent and prevents undue delay in delivering protection to financial consumers. And furthermore, Section 16 of the proposed bill already authorizes the SEC to issue the necessary rules and regulations for the implementation of the provisions of this act, including the imposition of reasonable administrative penalties for violations thereof. Marami pong salamat, Ginoong Pangulo and dear colleagues.
Thank you, Senator Villanueva. Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, with that, I move to close the period of amendments.
In objection, hearing none, period of amendments is hereby closed.
Mr. President, I move that we approve on second reading Senate Bill number 1744 under Committee Report number 26.
In objection, hearing none, Senate Bill 1744 under Committee Report 26 approved on second reading. Congratulations.
Thank you very much to the sponsor. Congratulations in order as well. Thank you. Mr. President, I move to suspend consideration of the measure.
In objection, hearing none, consideration of the measure is suspended.
May I ask for a minute suspension, Mr. President?
1 minute suspension. Ano,
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Our distinguished colleague, our Senate President pro tempore, would like to be recognized to avail of the privilege hour. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Panfilo Lacson.
The President pro temp, Senator Ping Lacson, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. As chairman of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, I have been subject of criticisms for not scheduling the 18 ex-military personnel who faced the media in an organized press conference at the historic Club Filipino on the eve of the 40th EDSA People Power Revolution to be called and testify before your committee on accountability of public officers and investigations. During the said press conference last February 24, these 18 individuals made claims on their supposed knowledge as former security personnel of one of the key personalities in the flood control scandal, former Congressman Saldico. To be clear, while every imputation of a crime warrants our attention, none deserves our blind deference. In the same manner that everyone has a right to be heard, it is not a license to mislead. Hence, while I reserve judgment on the merits of the testimonies, I am duty-bound to raise questions of logic and, at the very least, basic mathematics. These are not intended to disparage the testimonies of the said individuals, but rather ensure that proper evaluation of the credibility and reliability of both the source or sources of the information and the information itself adhere to rational and logical standards of believability before we take appropriate action. Siguradong bibigyang kulay na naman ng mga trolls ang mga tanong na ito. Pero isipin na lang natin kung magagamit ang mga nasabing aligasyon bilang instrumento ng propaganda o anumang motibo, hindi ba dapat ay logical at mathematically possible man lamang ang mga akusasyon? If only for argument's sake, Mr. President, let us accept the statement of Attorney Levy Baligod last weekend that the 805 billion pesos in kickbacks did not come solely from flood control project appropriations, contrary to what was initially reported. Let us consider the available variables that must inform our analysis, Mr. President. As earlier computed by the late Senator Ramon Revilla Sr. and further corroborated by Mr. Curly Discaya during one of our BRC hearings, 1 million pesos approximately weighs 1 kilogram. Basically, this means that the two executive assistants of Saldico, assisted by 18 ex-military personnel and other unnamed personalities, received, unloaded, repacked, and reloaded and moved 805,000 kilograms or 805 metric tons in paper bills over a certain period of time. And this does not include yet the weight of the packages themselves. Thus, we need to add around 53,600 kilograms or 53.6 metric tons, representing the combined weight of at least 13,400 large empty maletas or suitcases to accommodate 805 billion pesos, with the assumption each was made of soft-sided nylon or polyester materials, each weighing around 4 kilograms. Let's try to imagine the processes involved in the preparation and distribution of this cash. Suppose that the executive assistants or trusted personnel of Saldico, named Mark Tiksay and Paul Estrada, processed 500 million pesos a day, working 24/7, 365 days a year, including unloading, counting, repacking, loading, and delivering the money. This would take 5.5 years or mid-2028. Hindi pa sila tapos mag-deliver hanggang ngayon, Mr. President. If they started in 2023 or mid-2027, if they started as early as the second semester of 2022, when then Congressman Saldico took over the chairmanship of the House Appropriations Committee. Relatedly, one may still ask how such huge sums of money were physically collected and delivered to the residence of former Congressman Ko. To move this much wealth at a limit of 500 million pesos per day, you would need to make 1,610 deliveries to Saldico's Valle Verde 6 residence or somewhere else. Unloading, unpacking, repacking, reloading, and again delivering to different individual recipients. Even if they do it every single day of the year, it would take them 4.4 years to complete the 800 million peso deliveries, Mr. President. We can only imagine the logistical nightmare involved in the magnitude of the operations of former Congressman Saldico. By the way, following the joint narrative of the 18 security personnel, magkano ang natirang kickback kay Saldico? Zero? Was he just a messenger? Damanggit ng 18 security personnel sa kanilang affidavit na ang bahay ni Congressman Saldico sa Valle Verde 6, Pasig City ay naging bagsakan ng cash kung saan din ginagawa ni Mark Tiksay, John Paul Estrada at iba pang empleyado ang pagbibilang at pag-impake ng mga ito sa iba't ibang lalagyan. Since former Congressman Saldico served as chairman of the House Appropriations Committee from July 2022 to January 2025, his supposed influence and access to the national budget, assuming he exercised full and unlimited control, were during the period 2023 and 2024 or for a full 2 years. We are also saying here that 85 billion worth of paper bills were encashed from our bank reserves over the years. According to a Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the total physical cash in 2024, meaning the paper bills as well as coins that were currently held by the public and circulating in the economy, including those inside bank vaults, that year stood at 2.7 trillion pesos. That would mean that 400 billion or half of the 805 billion out of the 2.7 trillion pesos of physical cash of 114 Filipinos passed through a single individual, equivalent to around 15% of the total physical cash, both in circulation and those kept in all the bank vaults. Going back to the 805 billion pesos in totality, that was solely and exclusively at Saldico's disposal in 2023 and 2024. If we were to believe the 18 ex-soldiers, then those accumulated over the same period by personalities who are now facing plunder and other cases, like the former DPWH officials, Roberto Bernardo, Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, etc., contractors, etc., must be factored in to compute the aggregate total of absconded monies from the 2023 to 2024 GAAs. I raise this question to ensure that the testimonies withstand established facts and logic before we even invite them to testify before the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee. Pray tell, Mr. President, if their statements appear to be demonstratively false and physically impossible to accomplish, wouldn't convening a hearing effectively validate and dignify this information? That is my question. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader. I cannot answer the question.
No, I
Sounds
asked the
impossible.
good gentleman, Chairman of the Blue Ribbon Committee, if he would like to wish it to refer to his committee, but we'll just put it, refer it to the Committee on Rules, Mr. President, for the meantime.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to proceed, we also have another distinguished gentleman who would like to avail of the privilege hour, particularly on the issue of the OFWs, because of the war that is happening now in the Middle East. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, the chairman of the Committee on Foreign Relations, no other than Senator Erwin Tulfo.
Senator Erwin Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Majority Floor Leader. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise on a matter of urgent national and international concern. The escalating hostilities between the United States of America, Israel, and Iran, and its serious implications on global peace, regional stability, and Philippine national interests. Last Saturday, February 28, 2026, according to news reports, the United States and Israel launched coordinated strikes under what has been reported as Operation Epic Fury and Operation Roaring Lion. Reports indicate that Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and other senior figures were killed. Iran responded with airstrikes not only against Israel, but also against U.S. bases and facilities across the Gulf region, including Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and the United Arab Emirates. Civilian infrastructure, including major airports such as Dubai International Airport, have reportedly been affected. The recent exchange of direct military strikes marks a dangerous turning point in an already volatile region. Civilian lives have been lost, airports have been closed, oil markets have trembled. The international community watches with apprehension as regional tensions threaten to spiral beyond control.
Oh, look, they got the NASA building.
Oh, we're the ones that...
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, all right.
Mr. President, while this conflict unfolds thousands of miles from our shores, its consequences are not distant. First, the safety of overseas Filipinos. Isang Pilipina caregiver po ang naiulat na namatay sa Tel Aviv, si Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera ng Pangasinan. Isa lang po si Mary Ann sa libu-libong kababayan natin na naninirahan at nagtatrabaho sa Israel, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait at UAE. Their protection and safety are not optional, Mr. President. It is our constitutional and moral duty. Mr. President, dear colleagues, we must ensure that evacuation and repatriation protocols are ready, adequately funded, and fully coordinated with host governments. No Filipino must be left behind. No Filipino must be unaccounted for. Second, energy security and economic stability. A significant portion of the world's oil supply passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Any disruption in the corridor could lead to spikes in global oil prices. Ang epekto nito ay tiyak na ramdam ng bawat pamilyang Pilipino. Pagtaas po ng presyo ng gasolina, pagtaas ng pamasahe, pagtaas ng mga bilihin, at panibagong pasanin sa gitna ng patuloy na hamon ng ekonomiya. Kaya kinakailangan na nating tiyakin na may malinaw na plano ang pamahalaan upang protektahan ang ating ekonomiya laban sa panlabas na krisis mula sa sapat na reserbang enerhiya hanggang sa maagap na price monitoring at market intervention. Third, the integrity in international law and the rules-based order. The Philippines has consistently anchored its foreign policy on peaceful settlement of disputes, adherence to international law, and respect for sovereignty. Yes, the Philippines maintains long-standing alliances, yet we are equally guided by our Constitution to pursue an independent foreign policy rooted in national interests founded on peace, diplomacy, and order. Escalation and unilateral military actions, regardless of the actor, strain the very international system that protects smaller states like ours. At this point, Mr. President, it is not for this chamber to inflame rhetoric in a distant battlefield, but it is our duty to affirm what must remain constant: the protection of Filipino lives, the preservation of economic stability, the primacy of diplomacy over destruction, and the urgent call for de-escalation. Accordingly, this representation, Mr. President, filed Senate Resolution 322, respectfully calling upon the appropriate committees, including the Committee on Foreign Relations, Committee on Migrant Workers, and Committee on Energy, among others, to conduct an inquiry in aid of legislation to assess contingency measures to mitigate potential impacts on the ongoing armed conflict. We must keep the welfare of Filipinos worldwide at the forefront of our national response. We must remain vigilant in market monitoring and economic safeguards. And we must support diplomatic efforts through multilateral engagements and regional cooperation aimed at restoring stability. In moments such as this, we pray that prudence, restraint, and wisdom guide the decision of nations. May reason rise above rage. May diplomacy triumph over destruction. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Tulfo. Senator Bamakino is recognized.
Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Would the gentleman yield to a few questions?
Yes.
Unang-una po, Mr. President, we support the Chairperson on Foreign Affairs with this move to have a hearing para mapag-usapan ang mga iba't ibang kailangan gawin, no, para matulungan po natin yung mga kababayan natin. I also filed Resolution 321, no? So magkasunod po yung resolution natin at parehas rin po yung subject matter. Yung resolution po natin is calling for urgent measures to ensure the safety, protection, and repatriation readiness of overseas Filipino workers and Filipino nationals in countries affected by the February 28, 2026 United States-Israel strike on Iran and the subsequent region-wide military responses. No? Magkahintulad po, no, yung mga napag-usapan po ng resolution natin, pero nais ko lang pong detalyehin. No? So unang-una, Mr. President, kapag sinabi nating repatriation, tama po ba, Mr. President, ibig sabihin nun, yung mga nais umuwi ay mabibigyan ng chance ang umuwi, Mr. President?
Tama po yun, Ginoong Pangulo, good gentleman from Tarlac. Ang ibig pong sabihin noon ay voluntary po. Pag sinabing repatriation, kasi may mga levels po, may alert level 3, voluntary, at alert level 4 ay mandatory repatriation.
Ngayon po, Mr. President, we're on alert level 2, right?
Alert level 2 po sa panayam ko or pakikipag-usap ko po kay DFA Secretary Tess Lazaro. Ang alert level 2 po ay doon sa mga GCC o Gulf Cooperation Council o yung mga bansa tulad ng UAE, Qatar, Kuwait at Oman ang nasa alert level 2. Habang alert level 3 naman po ay sa Israel at Syria. At ang alam ko po ay alert level 3 pa rin po doon naman para sa mga kababayan natin na naninirahan sa Iran.
And Mr. President, pag umabot na yan ng alert level 4, kailangan na pong umuwi. Papauwi na yung mga OFW natin.
Yun po ay mandatory repatriation na po yun. Ibig sabihin, kukontakin na po sila ng ating mga embahada, ng ating pong OWA, para sila po ay mag-report o pumunta sa isang lugar kung saan po sila ay pipick upin at dadalhin po sa safe na lugar. Ang problema po ngayon ng ating pamahalaan at hindi lang po tayo kundi ibang mga bansa ay hindi mailabas ang mga iba't ibang lahi kasi nga po sarado ang airspace, wala pong mga eroplano, wala pong mga flight. At ang tanging pamamaraan lamang po na pwede silang ilikas ay sa pamamagitan po ng land transport o di kaya paggamit po ng mga barko sa dagat.
Mr. President, meron po bang pondo ang OWA, is it OWA or DMW, Department of Migrant Workers, para po sa repatriation ng mga kababayan po natin?
Meron po, actually, nung sa BICAM po, na-anticipate na po natin and si Chair Sherwin, tinaasan po natin ng 800 million po ang pondo po ng DMW Office of the Secretary at ang Action Fund po ng OWA ay dinagdagan po natin ng 500 million. Kaya umabot po ito sa 1.3 billion. Samantalang sa DFA naman po para sa repatriation ay 1 billion pesos.
Mr. President, tama po ba? Higit 2 milyong kababayan ang meron tayo sa Middle East?
Tama po yun. Yun po yung ating mga overseas Filipino workers.
Mr. President, maybe in the hearing, Mr. President, kung wala po tayong sagot ngayon, gusto rin ho nating malaman yung pondong nakalaan ay kung mag-a-avail ng repatriation services ang ating mga kababayan, kung ilan po sa kanila yung posibleng makakuha ng tulong na makauwi. No, I don't know, Mr. President, kung kakayanin, syempre 2 million, napakalaki po ng 2 million. And alam na naman ho natin, di naman lahat ho ay nagdedesisyon na umuwi. Pero maganda pong malaman, Mr. President, kung ilan kaya yung kayang ma-accommodate. Kasi kung kulang po, magandang madagdagan po yung pondo para kung mag-escalate nga po ito, meron pong paraan yung mga kababayan po natin na makauwi ng libre at matiwasay.
Kaya nga po sa ngayon, ang payo po ng ating mga embahada sa mga kababayan natin sa mga lugar kung saan ngayon ay may kaguluhan sa Middle East ay stay put at mag-ingat. Ang isa pa hong problema kasi, bagamat kahit na gusto po ng mga kababayan natin umuwi, ang mga OFWs, lalo na po dyan sa mga lugar na UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, tuloy-tuloy po ang pasok. Ayon naman po sa DMW. So, obligado po yung mga kababayan natin na pumasok pa rin.
Opo.
Pero may mga nagpahiwatig na rin po na gusto pong umuwi, lalo na po yung mga na-trap na mga kababayan natin na mga galing po sa Europe sa bakasyon, nandyan po sa Dubai ngayon. Meron din po yata tayo ilang mga pilgrims dyan po sa Israel na nagpahiwatig pong umuwi. So ito po ngayon ang inaasikaso ng Department of Foreign Affairs kung paano po sila madala sa safer na lugar. At ito po mga lugar na ito ay limitado lamang po. Isa po ang Oman, isa po ang Egypt, at isa pong tinitignan ngayon ng DFA ay ito pong Turkey.
Mr. President, no, napaka-komprehensibo po ng inyong binigay na mga datos. Sa totoo lang po, hinihintay rin po ng mga kapwa senador namin ang update ni Senator Tulfo, no, pagdating po sa mga nangyayari sa Middle East. Mr. President, nais ko rin malaman, yung mga uuwi po dito, anong serbisyo ang posible po nilang makuha kung sila po yung magde-decide na umuwi? Anong tulong ang pwede po nilang makuha mula po sa ating gobyerno?
May mga pondo po ang DMW para po sa mga kababayan natin po na umuwi. I believe nasa 15,000 hanggang 25,000 po ang inisyal. Nakaantabay din po dyan ang Department of Labor and Employment po natin. May mga pondo rin po. Tutulong din po dyan, yung Department of Social Welfare and Development. Pag may mga krisis pong ganito, ang ginagawa po ng Malacanang, nung ako po ay DSWD Secretary pa, ay pinagsasama-sama po yung mga ahensya na yan to form like a task force para tumulong po sa mga kababayan natin na mga umuwi galing sa overseas para mabigyan ng financial assistance yung mga umuwi galing sa ibang bansa.
So tama, Mr. President, no, magsisimula yan sa safety ng mga kababayan natin doon kung nasaan sila ngayon. No? Matulungan natin sila na maging secure at safe sa abot ng mga kaya. Kung umabot ito sa alert level 4 or nais nang umuwi, may tulong na umuwi dito. That's the repatriation services, of course, subject to airspace being open again. Pag uwi po dito, dapat may serbisyong may bibigay. Alam ko, Mr. President, na itong nangyayari ngayon sa Middle East ay unprecedented talaga, tsaka may potential po talagang lumaki. No? So I will support you, Mr. President. Pag nag-hearing na po tayo, magandang malaman mula sa mga ahensya, magkanong nakalaan, handa ba sila, at higit sa lahat, sapat na ba ito sa magnitude, no, ng posibleng mangyari po at posibleng maging outcome nitong mga nangyayaring kaguluhan po sa Middle East. Because Mr. President, habang sabi nga nila, yung pagsisisi nasa huli. Habang may konti pang oras, maganda Mr. President na magtulungan tayo para masigurado na nandyan yung pondo, handa yung gobyerno, at yung mga kababayan nating mga ngailangang umuwi ay makakakuha po ng sapat na tulong. We want to see, Mr. President, the scale of which our services are funded and can be provided at makumpara po yon sa mga estimate ng mga uuwi po ditong mga kababayan po natin, Mr. President.
Madagdag ko lamang po, Ginoong Pangulo, bago pa man po sumiklab itong digmaan na ito dyan po sa gitnang silangan, ay minomonitor na po ito ng Department of Foreign Affairs. Ayon po yan kay Secretary Tess Lazaro. Few weeks ago po yan, may anticipation po na baka mag-back down po yung negotiation, yung pag-uusap po between ng US at Iran. Ang pinag-uusapan po nila ay alisin po yung nuclear armaments po o production ng bansang Iran na hindi po pumayag yung isa, yung Iran po. Kaya yun ho naging problema, binomba po ito, inuna na po ng Israel. So mayroon pong anticipation at nung Sabado nga po ng alas 11 ng gabi dahil nagsimula po ang pambobomba umaga ng Sabado, our time, pagdating po alas 11 ng gabi ay nagkaroon po ng Zoom meeting ang DFA, kasama po ang DMW at ang mga iba't ibang embahada natin sa lugar, kasama po ang labor attaché para pag-usapan po ang contingency plan. Matagal na pong nakalatag ang contingency plan ng ating pamahalaan. Siguro po halos 3 linggo bago po nagkagulo ay nailatag na po yan at yung mga ruta na kanila pong dadaanan. Na-anticipate na rin po ng DFA na isasara po ang mga airspace sa mga lugar na ito. Kaya nga po ang option lamang ngayon ay through land or sea para mailabas po sila at yung mga bansa na nabanggit natin tulad po ng Turkey, Oman at saka Egypt ang siya pa lamang po ay safe haven para sa mga kababayan natin na magsilikas mula sa digmaan.
Mr. President, we thank you for your leadership and your chairmanship. Maraming salamat, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. President, we look forward to the hearing that will be held with regard to this subject. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. Majority Leader.
Mr. President, before I refer the committee, the good gentleman, just manifestations from our colleagues. One from Senator Rafi Tulfo, the other also from Senator Risa Ontiveros. May we recognize the two.
Who goes
Two of our
first?
colleagues.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized.
Would it be ladies first? Senator Rafi Tulfo first, Mr. President. On the same topic muna, then I'll refer you later substitution.
Thank you.
Mr. President, I would like to associate myself with the privileged speech of Senator Erwin Tulfo. As chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, I'm closely monitoring the escalating tensions in the Middle East. Excuse me. Lubha po akong nababahala, lalo na tumigit kumulang nasa 2.44 million overseas Filipino workers ang nandun ngayon. Nakakalungkot din pong ibalita, Mr. President, na may isa pong OFW caregiver, siya po ay si Mary Ann Velasquez de Vera ng Basista, Pangasinan, ang nasawi sa Israel habang sinusubukan niyang iligtas ang kanyang alaga sa gitna ng kaguluhan sa nasabing riyon. Since yesterday, I've been in close coordination with the Department of Migrant Workers, Department of Foreign Affairs, Armed Forces of the Philippines, and airline companies to ensure that all necessary contingency measures are fully operational. The Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, assured us that adequate assistance funds are readily available for emergency evacuation, temporary shelter, medical needs, and financial support for affected workers. While we are hopeful that diplomatic efforts will prevent further escalation, I call on our OFW to remain vigilant, stay in constant communication with the nearest Philippine diplomatic post, and strictly follow local advisories and safety protocols. As the chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, I guarantee the public, particularly the OFWs, that we are ready to exercise the committee oversight functions to ensure that no Filipino is left behind. And before I end my speech, Mr. President, isa po sa dapat pagtuunan din natin pansin, and which I'm doing right now, ay hindi lamang mga OFW kundi lubos na maapektuhan din ang ating mga kababayan, particular ng transport group kapag nag-escalate ng problema. Of course, almost automatically natataas po yung presyo ng mga langis. So pag tumaas po yung mga presyo ng langis, then of course, directly affected yung transport group natin, and I came to know na wala raw palang subsidy budget ang ating pamahalaan for them for this year. So saan tayo kukuha ng pangsuporta sa ating special sa mga fisher folks at sa mga nasa agribusiness, nasa agricultural sector. So that is something na kailangan din pagtuunan ng pansin. And then sa katanungan ni Senator Bam Aquino kanina, so what's going to happen to the OFWs na babalik ng bansa? So that's why I'm filing I filed the OFW reintegration bill that will address doon sa question ni Senator Bam na pagdating nila dito, ano ang pwede nilang maasahan. At doon sa bill na yun, sinasagot lahat. That's all, Mr. President. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Senator Rapi.
May we recognize also to give a manifestation on the speech of Senator Erwin Tulfo, our distinguished Deputy Majority Floor Leader, Senator Risa Ontiveros.
Senator Riza Ontiveros is recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. Bilang pagsuporta po dun sa privilege speech sa good gentleman mula sa Palawan, intensyon ko rin po, Mr. President, mag-file ng katulad na resolusyon tungkol sa mga contingency measures ng ating gobyerno para siguruhin yung agarang kaligtasan ng ating mga overseas Filipino workers. Sayang na sayang po na nakarating na sa kaalaman natin yung trahedyang nangyari kay Mary Ann de Vera Velasquez. Kaya nakikisa ako sa taus-pusong pakikiramay ng buong Senado sa kanyang pamilya sa Pangasinan. Kasabay po ng pagsiguro ng immediate safety ng ating iba pang at maraming OFWs, tingin ko po, Mr. President, dapat magkondukta din ng isang strategic re-examination ng ating pambansang polisiya sa energy security. Baka kailangan po natin ng isang government-administered na strategic oil reserve at baka kailangan din nating bilisan yung renewable energy development para i-mitigate naman yung 96.8%, napakataas po, 96.8% na reliance ng ating bansa sa krudo mula sa gitnang silangan. Sa huli po, Mr. President, tingin ko po dapat mag-provide po tayo ng mga fiscal incentives para yung ating mga domestic industries ay magsilbing economic lifeboats, na magsisiguro sa agad na pag-absorb ng mga repatriated workers sa tatlong partikular na sektor, sa energy sector, sa agriculture sector, at sa manufacturing sector, para nga ma-reintegrate immediately yung ating mga kababayang magpapa-repatriate, ma-reintegrate dito sa ating ekonomiya para mapigilan ang isang inflationary crisis na binabantayan na ng economic managers ng gobyerno at para patuloy na magsulong kahit medyo bumagal pero dapat huwag tumigil yung national industrialization sa kabila pa rin po, Mr. President, nitong bumigla sa ating lahat na pagsiklab ng gera sa Middle East. Salamat po, Mr. President, at salamat muli sa good gentleman mula sa Palawan.
Thank you.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan.
Senator Kiko Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just maybe one or two questions, but before that, I would like to congratulate our chairperson on the Committee on Foreign Relations for his very timely privileged speech. Malaking bagay po ang nangyayari sa Middle East sa ngayon, lalo na sa mahigit 1 milyon nating mga kababayan na doon nagtatrabaho. Malaki ang agam-agam po nila at ang agarang pagkilos ng ating gobyerno ay isa sa mga paraan para matiyak ang kaligtasan ng ating mga kababayan. If I'm not mistaken, the good senator, as he mentioned earlier, filed a resolution in this regard. I believe Senator Bam Aquino likewise filed a resolution. And for the information of our chairperson of the Committee on Foreign Relations, we put together, and he signed it, a sense of the Senate resolution calling on urging the Philippine government to immediately implement measures for the protection and repatriation of overseas Filipino workers amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, and to adopt interventions to mitigate the resulting economic impacts on the Philippines. If I'm not mistaken, 22 senators have already signed the resolution. So maybe this, if the good senator is willing and amenable, perhaps through the majority leader, we can already adopt that resolution as a gesture and a symbol of the urgency of the matter, that immediately kumilos ang Senado, pumosisyon tungkol dito at isama na rin ang mga minungkahi sa resolusyon sa magiging hearing ng ating chairperson sa komite. Is he willing?
Sang-ayon po itong representation na ito, Ginoong Pangulo.
Yes. With that, I have no other questions. We look forward to the hearing because we also want to know ano ang magiging immediate na mga pagkilos ng ating mga ahensya ng pamahalaan na may direktang kinalaman dito sa mga magiging epekto sa ating ekonomiya, magiging epekto sa ating mga kababayan na sa ibang bansa. Ang isang halimbawa riyan ay nabanggit nga kanina, tataas ang presyo ng gasolina. Meron tayong mga programang fuel subsidies sa transport sector, sa mga magsasaka, sa mga mangingisda. Dahil pag tumaas ang presyo ng langis, hirap ang magiging karanasan ng mga maliliit nating mga manggagawa, magsasaka, mga mangingisda. Yung pag-suspend ng excise tax sa fuel na maaring bumaba ng hanggang 3 hanggang 6 na piso kada litro kung ito ay masuspinde kahit pansamantala. Kaya mahalaga itong pag-hearing na ito para malaman natin ano ang mga hakbang at makapagmungkahi din tayo ng mga hakbang para matugunan ang problema dala ng sigalot sa Middle East. Maraming salamat, Mr. President. Thank you to the distinguished chairperson of the Committee on Foreign Relations.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech of the good gentleman to the Committee on Foreign Relations and the Committee on Migrant Workers.
In objection, hearing none, referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers Committee.
Thank you. Mr. President, while we're still waiting for the additional reference to business, maybe we could recognize another distinguished Congress senator who would like to wish of the use or avail of the privilege hour. Mr. President, let's recognize, Mr. President, Senator Rafi Tulfo to give his privilege speech.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I speak before you today on a matter of personal and collective privilege. Before I begin, allow me to show a short video.
Walang hulog sa SSS, Pilhan Pag-ibig.
Wala po yan. Yung benefits namin, walang hulog po.
Plus po kami manggagawa na kinakaltasan ng mga benepisyo na hindi inuhulog. Pati ang mga loan namin, attorney, isipin nyo, simula July, pera namin na pinagpaguran, imbis sa pakikinabangan ng pamilya namin, sa kanila na pupunta. Di ba kung inuhulog sa inyo eh. Kami apektado rito. Dapat po, bilisan nyo. Kasi baka sarado na company namin, hindi na namin mahabol.
Opo.
Dahil hindi na namin alam kung anong gagawin namin eh.
Kunyari na lang, ininsulto kayo, pinunit yung demand letter nyo. Anong susunod na gagawin nyo, ma'am? At ano po yung penalty?
Ang akusado po ay ayon sa aming batas ay pinagbabayad po ng 5,000 pesos up to 20,000 pesos.
Ma'am naman, bakit 5,000? Eh, daan-daan libo, milyon na ang dinekwat sa mga magagawa, tapos 5,000 lang ang fine?
Kasi wala po kami mga benefits Jesus din po, sir.
Walang hulog sa SSS.
In my almost 30 years in public service in media, broadcasting, and here in the Senate, walang araw ang lumipas na walang lumapit sa aking programa at opisina tungkol sa problema ng ating mga laborers. Wala o kulang na pasweldo, benepisyo, at kontribusyon sa SSS, PhilHealth o Pag-ibig. Itong SSS, PhilHealth at Pag-ibig ay may mga mahalagang benepisyo Ang SSS ay panangga ng mga empleyado sa mga di inaasang mga pangyayari at para maibsan ang pinansyal na pangangailangan sa pagtanda ng ating mga kababayan. Ang PhilHealth naman ang inaasahan ng ating mga kababayan tuwing sila ay nagkakasakit. At ang pag-ibig naman ay nagkakaloob ng mga housing loans, short-term loans, calamity loans at kasangkapan upang makapag-ipon para sa kinabukasan. Kapag itong mga ito ay hindi nabayaran, kawawa ang mga manggagawa pag dumating ang panahon na kailangan nila ang mga ito. Tumatanda na walang pensyon o kapag nangangailangan ng pera, walang mahiram sa pag-ibig. Samantala, ang di pagkolekta ng tama ng PhilHealth ay nagiging dahilan kung bakit hindi napapalawak ang serbisyo sa ilalim ng universal healthcare natin. Kaya naman, tuwing may nakakarating sa akin ng mga ganitong reklamo, agad kong tinatawag ang pansin ng mga ito upang singilin ng maayos ang mga employer. Pinagtataka ko, bakit pala parati na lang ganito? Parating may mga nakakalusot na kumpanya at kailangan pang lumapit sa aking programa upang maningil sila. Ito ngayon, Mr. President, nagtataka ako sa kwento nitong si Deo Hanito Balbuena o mas kilala sa pangalang Diwata. Ang nag-viral na may-ari ng parisito sa tabi ng Senado. Siguro lahat tayo alam kung nasa data. Pwesto. Mula sa pagiging palapo sa social dahil sa nag-viral na parisan. Pero magmula noon, manabi na ang nangyari at tuloy na lang sara ang parisan niya at nagpadeclare na siya ng bankruptcy. Itong nakalang linggo, siya inaresto dahil sa hindi pag-rehistro at bayad ng SSS. Panoorin po natin ang may claim video.
SSS. Kulang-kulang 4 hours. Ang kaso ay hindi na pagpumayag. Tapos yung tao guys, walang warning. Pumasok lang sa akin sa karawan. Sa kabila ng puluto, yun lang naman intention ko. Magtulong ako at siyempre magtulong ako sa iba. Lalo na sa sarili ko at siyempre sa pamilya ko. Yun lang din pala may ginagawa para matulong ako. Sana kung mandatory man to or batas man talaga siya, sana naman tulungan nyo kami na ayos to, sana lang din applicable kaya namin nagsusurvive lang, palabala na makakain lang isang araw.
May pagkakamali talaga si Diwata at pinagsabihan ko po siya. Pero ang pinataya niya ay wala naman daw siyang mga empleyado na nagreklamo sa SSS. Dahil alam nila, mga tao niya na maliliit na negosyo lang sila. At may nakarating siya na hanap itong SSS na mga pwedeng magreklamo laban sa kanya. Tinuturuan siya paano mag-file ng complaint. Maraming ganito sa ating mga bayan. Mga maliliit na negosyo na walang tapat na kalaman sa mga business compliance sa ating mga batas. Naalala ko po ang isa pang kaso na nakarating sa akin. Isang 71-year-old na lola na kinulong din dahil hindi sa pagrimata ng SSS contribution, pag-remit ng SSS contribution ng isang kooperatiba. Napagalaman namin, hindi naman board of director itong si lola at isa lamang siyang miyembro. Ang masama pa ay walang record ng summons na dala sa kanya. Inimbestigahan na nangyari at walang malinaw na leadership ang kooperatiba at minalas itong si Lola at siya ang tinawit ng SSS sa kaso. Ang di ko po maintindihan ay bakit ito maliliit na mga negosyo tulad ni Diwata at ni Lola ay kaya naman palang huliin at sinilin ng kusa kahit wala nagreklamo na empleyado. Pero libo-libo pa din ang mga manggagawa na di natutulungan ang kanilang mga hinaing sa kawalan ng benepisyo. Itong kay Diwata, wala siyang kinaltas at walang nilihistro ng mga buwan. Pero ang ibang malalaking kumpanya, nakarehistro, nagkaltas, pero binulsa at di nag-remit sa SSS, hindi nakasuhan at hindi nakukulong. Bakit itong mga empleyado kailangan pang lumapit sa akin para makasingil sa kanilang mga employers? Tulad ng mga security agencies na parati na lang nilalapit sa akin. Bakit di sila masingil ng SSS? Pilal to pag-ibig. Dahil bang may-ari ng mga agencies na ito ay dating mga retired o active military o colonel o general? Bakit ang mga kumpanya ng mga daming empleyado hindi kusang nasisilip at nasisingil? Tulad ng patayan na nabisita ko sa Silang Cavite, 71 na mananahi, walang pasweldo at kontribusyon sa SSS, pero despite that, hindi man lang sila kinasuhan ng SSS at hindi man lang kinulong ang may-ari ng patahian. Mr. President, the SSS has been under scrutiny for uncollected contributions for years. In 2023, the COA flagged uncollected premium contributions from delinquent employers. According to the report, only 4.5 billion pesos was collected in 2023, which is only 4.89% of the 93.7 billion collectibles for that year. In 2025, SSS bragged that uncollected contributions has gone down to 46 billion pesos. 46 billion pesos is not something to be proud of. Kung itong SSS naniniwala na malaga ang Social Security para sa ating mga mamamayan, dapat walang delinquency na ganyang kalaki. Tapos taas pa ng taas ng contribution rate. Di ba naman madidismay ang ating mga manggagawa rito? Para sa SSS, wag itong napapakulong ninyo ang mga small business owners ang i-flex nyo, kundi yung sanang makasingil kayo sa mga malalaking kumpanya. Huwag yung mga karinderya at mga parisan lamang ang inyong pinagtutuunan ng pansin. At huwag niyong hintayin na ako kulitin kayo na mangolekta. Ang lalaki ng sweldo ng mga board of directors ninyo dyan sa SSS, hundreds of millions of pesos. Ako, wala naman akong sweldo galing sa inyo dyan, pero bakit ako ginagawa niyong collecting agent? Gawin niyo ang trabaho niyo, SSS. Binigyan namin kayo ng kapangyarihan at sa kakareklamo ko tungkol sa SSS, tinasa ng penalty sa mga violators ng SSS law para magkangipin ang batas. The Social Security Commission, when a person defaults in the payment of contributions, might collect through court action or by issuing a warrant to the sheriff of any province or city, commanding him to attach and sell any property of the debtor. And violators could be held liable for fines of up to 5 to 20,000 pesos and imprisonment to 6 to 12 years. The same teeth have been given to PhilHealth and Pag-ibig. Non-payment of contributions for PhilHealth is subject to fines of 50 to 100,000 and imprisonment of 6 months to 1 year. While for Pag-ibig, violators could be fined with 1 to 10,000 and imprisonment up to 6 years. Dati po, nung ako po'y broadcaster pa lamang na palagi ko pong kinukulang attention ng SSS, bakit napakaliit na multa kapag ang isang employer ay nag-violate ng SSS law at hindi po nag-remit sa SSS para sa contribution ng empleyado. Sa Manila, sa hindi, ay 1,000 pesos lamang po ang multa. So dahil sa aking pag-iingay, ngayon ay tinaasan nila pero not good enough. Mr. President, the problem is how these entities utilize these enforcement powers. I believe they should wield the sword of justice in the same way as the blindfolded Lady Justice who cannot see who is in front of her. They must apply the law equally to the rich or poor. But as public entities whose very core rely on their collection, I assume that they should focus their energy on those companies or businesses where they can collect more. It's just common sense. SSS has a law enforcement group. They even have a program called RACE, or Run Against Contribution Evaders. Pero bakit parang kulang pa din? There is something wrong with the registration, monitoring, and enforcement system. Do not see what's worse, they do not see the urgency of fixing that system. Napakahirap po para sa ating mga business owners, lalo na para sa ating mga MSMEs na mga mag-register at magpalit ng status ng mga empleyado. Mr. President, the informal business sector is the means of livelihood of most of our people. These enterprises that merely sell goods that they personally produce to meet their family needs become the victim of regulation that was meant for big companies. And that is why we have crafted so many laws to address the ease of doing business for small businesses. Magna Carta for MSMEs, Barangay Micro Business Enterprise Law, Negosyo Center Act, among others. Itong Negosyo Center Act, maganda ito dahil nagkaroon ng one-stop shop sa mga LGU para sa small businesses upang makapag-comply sila sa iba't ibang business regulations. Kulang sa assistance ang ating mga maliliit na mamamayan na itinatawid lang ang kanilang munting negosyo. Mr. President, recently there is so much unfairness in the way the power is being exercised by public officials and government entities. I hope they remember that if the law does not distinguish, neither should they when it comes to implementing the law. Be consistent, be fair. I hope to be able to take these matters up in the Labor Committee as these concerns affect our laborers. Thank you, Mr. President, and my dear colleagues.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we refer the speech of our distinguished colleague, Senator Raffy Tulfo, to the Committee on Labor and Employment and Human Resource Development.
So referred to Committee on Labor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Another colleague of ours would like to avail of the privilege hour, Mr. President. May we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Pia Cayetano.
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise on a matter of privilege today on a topic that is very personal to me, but I know also personal to many of our colleagues here who have joined me in this battle. Recently, Mr. President, I think this was late last week, a group of public health advocates pressed lawmakers to impose an absolute ban on the sale of electronic cigarettes, vapes, and in other words, alternative cigarettes. This has been a call that they have been making. I would say this push for a ban has been making its rounds in the last 6 months, maybe in the last year, because all over Southeast Asia, many of our neighbors have banned the use of these products. Many of our colleagues will also recall that in the last Congress, I have stood up and showed photos of the deceptive sales tactics being implemented by the industry, wherein they are using all these cute cartoon figures that are known to our children on the packaging of these vapes. Many of our colleagues have stood up and joined me in their concern because we have children, we're very concerned about the youth who are who are attracted to these products that are making, particularly because they are really being marketed to the children. So I rise today, Mr. President, to share some more figures. Based on a study of the DOST Food and Nutrition Research Institute, the prevalence of e-cigarette smoking among adolescents aged 10 to 19 increased to 0.8% in 2015. This is less than 1% to 39.3%, almost 40% in 2023. This is a crazy increase in statistics, Mr. President. The industry, and I'd like to make clear that the big brands are also owned by the tobacco industry. The tobacco industry would like us to believe that vapes and all these alternative products are safer for us. That has been their battle cry. And there is also a research that has shown that pinaniwalaan na ng mga Pilipino. Nag-shift ang ibang naninigarilyo, nag-shift sila sa cigarettes, or hindi sila istrikto sa mga teenagers na anak nila dahil nga ay safer pala yan. It is not safer, Mr. President. So that is the big problem that we have right now. I will repeat figures that I have time and again shared with all of you. In the United States, the US FDA rejected 55,000 flavored e-cigarettes due to lack of evidence that they have a benefit to adult smokers, sufficient enough to overcome the public health threat posed by the alarming level of youth use of such products. 55,000 flavors ang na-reject. Can you imagine that? And I will repeat, up to this day, hindi tayo nagtetest. Mula ng araw na pinasa natin, yung vape law na yan, hindi pa rin nagtetest. The vape law gave the DTI the power to test and to regulate. They're not doing their job. They are not testing and regulating. They do not have any capacity. They do not have the equipment. They do not have the skilled manpower. They are not doing it. And yet here we are, we allow this to happen, and we have the chance to correct this. I have filed a bill that will remove the jurisdiction from DTI back to FDA. Yes, I know there's probably no one here that is in love with the services that come out of FDA, but if you look at the professionals they have there, they have the professionals, and it is their mandate. It is not the mandate of DTI. So yan, walang nagre-regulate, and yet the US, kaya nilang mag-ban ng 55,000 flavors, pero sa Pilipinas, wala tayong pakialam. So siguro dito, we have double the amount circulating and being ingested by our children. Imagine the United States says, there is no evidence that there is any benefit to allowing flavors for the youth. Kasi ang sasabihin ng ibang matanda, kasi mas okay to, may mga flavors kami, hindi na kami naninigarilyo. Yes, but the danger to exposing this to the youth goes on. And in the US, they decided they will not expose the youth to this. But don't get me wrong, they have a huge vape problem because despite regulating these flavors, they're still selling it. And so, you look at Southeast Asia, wow, 8 countries have banned it, Mr. President. 8 countries, and I will name these countries. These are Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Thailand, Timor-Leste, and Vietnam. And the latest to join that group is Myanmar. And that's why you have health advocates who are now saying, Philippine lawmakers, speak up. Pass a law that will also ban this. So a little bit of history, my dear colleagues. In 2021, former Senator Ralph Recto filed and sponsored Senate Bill number 2239. This is the Vaporized Nicotine Products Regulation Act, otherwise called, referred to the vape bill. We had a period of interpellation for months after that, and on December 16, 2021, this vape bill was approved on third reading. There were only 2 senators who voted against it, myself and Senator Pangilinan. Mr. President, I fought against this bill so hardly because it gives the impression that it is regulating the industry, and yet what it was doing was liberalizing the sale of vape products. From the bill that I proposed, where the law, where it would be, the age of access would be 21, they lowered it to 18. Sorry, let me correct myself. The existing law, which was the sin tax law, provided the age of access at 21 years of age. This vape bill reduced the age to 18. So gusto niya, 18 pa lang, sige, mag-vape ka na. Nakapasa na tayo ng batas na sinabing sa 21 pa kasi nga very vulnerable itong mga young people. Let's allow them to make that decision to try this vape pag medyo 21 na. Tapos binabaan natin, ginawa natin 18. And then, we said that the jurisdiction to regulate is with the FDA. That is also in the sin tax law. Tinanggal yon, nilipat sa DTI. And I have already explained that DTI has done nothing about this. Finally, flavors. We had a total ban on flavors. We only allowed the regular, whatever cigarette tastes like, so tobacco flavor, and pinayagan natin doon menthol. That's it. Comes this vape bill, pinayagan na yung iba-ibang flavors. O ano nangyari? Ayan na, from Hello Kitty to name your other favorite character, nandyan lahat yan on the packaging of the vape products. So this is the result. Almost 40% of our youth are somehow involved in vapes from the age of 10 to 19. But I go on. Let me go on, Mr. President. I think it is today, there was an editorial that, and let me just read a portion of it. I just want to correct the record, Mr. President. There's an editorial that states that it's an editorial that basically criticizes government for liberalizing the vaping industry despite the strong opposition of health experts. And the editorial goes on to say, to express how our youth are exposed to the addiction and fatal lung disease, all of which are supported by the health advocates. But there's just one portion that I'd like to clarify, set the record straight, Mr. President. It also goes on to explain the changes that were made in the vape law versus the sin tax law that I've also explained, and I thank the editorial team for sharing this information. But I'd like to correct this. It goes on here to say that former President Duterte, who had banned smoking in public places nationwide, and that is a fact, gave into the tobacco lobby and signed the bill which both chambers of Congress had passed. So that's incorrect, Mr. President, because that is something that I was watching very carefully. After we passed the vape bill, when both passes, the bicameral conference committee was held on January 26, 2022. Please note that was an election year. Then on March 30, the Senate received a letter from Secretary General of the House of Representatives, Mark Leandro Mendoza, and attached to the letter were the 9 enrolled copies of the consolidated version of the vape bill for signature of our Senate Secretary, Myra Villarica, and the Senate President, March 30, 2022. Then on May 30, 2022, the Senate sent a letter to Speaker Lord Velasco, returning the 8 enrolled copies for its transmission to the Office of the President. The enrolled copies, as following the procedure, were signed by the Senate President and the Senate Secretary. May 30, 2022, na-transmit na yan ng Senate sa House. Almost 1 month later, June 2023, this representation, together with health advocates, conducted a press conference and exposed that the vape bill was still pending in the House of Representatives. Hindi gumagalaw, nandun lang sa House. Andun lang. June 24, the next day, the enrolled bill was transmitted to the Office of the President 5 months after its passage and barely 3 working days before the end of the former President Duterte's term. Inantay, 5 buwan, nakabinbin. 3 working days before former President Duterte's term ended, doon niya natanggap. Walang action si President Duterte, to be fair. So paki-clarify na lang kasi let's report these things correctly. So 3 days. So hindi inaksyonan yun ni President Duterte, and the new term on June 30, the term of the new president, our current president, President Marcos, started June 30. On July 20, 20 days later, this representation again held a press conference along with my brother, Senator Alan Cayetano. He joined me and with health advocates, and we called on President Marcos to veto the vape bill kasi napunta na sa kanya kasi siya na presidente. Hindi niya vinito. So on July 25, 2022, the enrolled bill lapsed into law and became RA 11900, or the Vaporized Nicotine Products Regulation Act. So I'm just clarifying that fact because I think we should all be responsible for our actions. So if I voted for something, I should be responsible for it. If I didn't vote for something, I'll be responsible for it. So former President PRD did not pass it naman. Hindi niya 3 days nga lang mag-expire na yung term niya, dun lang binigay. And I feel like this is just me, this is just my opinion, but something happened there. 5 months, hindi pinadala. Tas pinadala 3 days before. And I know how the tobacco industry works. That's why am I not surprised? So here we are today, Mr. President. I know none of these tobacco bills are priority bills, but I ask my dear colleagues, join me in making this a priority. This is eating at the health of our youth. Lahat na ginawa natin kanina, our chairperson of the Committee on Health, and in fairness, how many bills has she sponsored? How many bills has she heard addressing health issues of the nation? So many of our colleagues will stand up and to interpolate and to amend, and I think we're doing a good job. But let's not turn our back on this pressing issue there's a strong lobby. Let's do the right thing. Let's stand up and decide. Are we going to join our colleagues in a total ban? The bills I filed, by the way, which came after the vape bill, the vape bill became the vape law. We're returning the jurisdiction to FDA, prohibiting sales to persons below 21, banning the different flavors, banning the sale in school areas because now they also we are actually selling just 100 meters. 100 meters, dun lang yun. Ang dali-daling takbuhin ng bata yun, yung 100 meters from their school. So there's so much we can do, including the discussion on the ban. So that is the gist of my privileged speech, Mr. President. There are bills out there, and if this can be heard, if any of these bills can be heard, then we can start the discussion on how we want to tackle this epidemic, because it is a vape epidemic, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator Francis Pangilinan is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the lady senator from Taguig be willing to answer a
Yes,
few
Mr.
questions?
President, very
Yes.
willingly.
Congratulations to Senator Cayetano for this privileged speech. It is a concern. If I recall correctly, I voted with Senator
You did.
Cayetano.
And I announced it that it's just you and I who voted against it on the third reading.
Yes, yes. And therefore, it is a concern of this representation. What is the industry? How much is the vape industry in the Philippines, Madam President? Would the good senator know?
I can give you to that, Mr. President. I'll ask my staff for the numbers. But while I'm waiting for the numbers, let me expound on that topic. That, as I mentioned, the big brands are owned by tobacco companies.
Yes.
And then the position that these big tobacco companies will take is that they are protecting the health of the Filipinos because vape is a safer product, which is not true. There is no proof that it is safer. And then there is also this issue that they're raising about the loss of revenues due to the illicit trade, which is happening. I do not doubt that exists. But the answer there, because it is already being discussed in the House, I believe, I'm not really sure of the status, to revisit the sin tax that we impose.
Yes.
And medyo malawak na yung topic. I didn't include it in my speech, but this now, in response to Your Honor's question, is part of the whole issue because the industry will claim that they are losing money to illicit trade and that they are less revenue is being transmitted to the government, and therefore, let us reduce the sin tax. Medyo nagkamali ng konti dun sa logic. But let me just check with my staff
Yes,
if we're ready.
while that is being checked, yes, the good senator mentioned that it is not correct to say that this is safer than cigarette smoking. I recall those debates, and that the discussion then was that yes, vaping is less toxic or a better alternative to smoking. And the lady senator just mentioned that it is not true.
It's not.
You know, there's so much disinformation out there. What is the latest research and data regarding the ill effects? Is it worse than vaping? Because I get many different answers. It depends. Some doctors say it depends on the the content of the vape device. So there are a lot of discussions saying it is worse, but it depends. What is the science
I would
behind
love
it?
to address that, Mr. President. So first of all, what the tobacco industry does is they hold conferences for doctors. We banned that in the bill that we proposed, in the version that we proposed, and that is the one good thing that was carried in the vape law. Bawal naman yan. So instead, what they did was, and I know for a fact because it was held in BGC, so na-trace ko to through my Taguig connections, na they had a conference with dentists. So dentists naman yung tinarget nila. So I'm like, wait, ano bang sinulat natin sa batas? Sinabi ba natin doctors? So dentists, they excluded, but they have these ways of going through all, their tentacles are wide and long-reaching. We found, I saw a copy of the program. They really had foreign doctors who will speak to whatever crowd is willing to listen to them to advocate their position. And I've heard it, I've listened to all, but the fact remains, as a doctor, as a health provider, you err on the side of safety.
Yes.
You do not promote something that is uncertain. So
Yes.
that's, to me, doon pa lang, delikado yung ginagawa nung mga nagpo-promote niyan. Secondly, there are what they called EVALIs, yung deaths from vaping. And we have a confirmed case in the Philippines already. There's probably more, but as you know, the data in the Philippines is not easily available as it is in, let's say, the US. Yung reporting systems natin are not as reliable, but there are deaths from vaping. So clearly, this is not a simple health issue. And His Honor is correct in pointing out that it depends what's in there. That's the whole point. Because, as I said, in the US, because of their sophisticated system, they were able to ban 55,000 flavors because there's no proven health benefit. We're not even going through the process. So can you just imagine the quality of ingredients that are in the vapes being sold on the streets?
Yes.
And because kulang din tayo sa regulation, I randomly will see in any small street, Dr. Healthy Vapes. Mga ganun yung mga pangalan. Healthy vaping. Like,
Yes. It's an oxymoron.
It's an oxymoron. So definitely, Mr. President, there is so much more to be done. And I think that is why these Southeast Asian countries banned.
Yes.
Kasi ang hirap kalabanin. Ang daming nilang tentacles, ang dami nilang paraan. So it's just simpler
Well, you
for
mentioned
them to ban.
Southeast Asia. I understand Singapore has banned it.
Yes.
But
yes.
this is also banned in other ASEAN countries
Yes,
or,
Mr.
or
President.
regulated?
Myanmar, Brunei, Cambodia, Laos, Singapore, Thailand. Thailand
Yes.
is quite very open-minded, di ba? They're very liberal.
Yes.
Sila nga yung may marijuana di ba?
Yes.
And yet, think about it. They allowed marijuana, although they backtracked and are regulating a bit, but it's still allowed. But they banned vapes. And then Timor-Leste and Vietnam. And I happened to travel to probably it must have been Thailand, no? Because I was there for the Southeast Asian Games. They really tell you sa airline pa lang na banned ang vapes dito. Huwag kayong magpasok. Do not try to bring it in because it is illegal here. O, and dami naman Pilipinong pumupunta doon. So, kaya pa nilang palang tumigil.
Yes.
Pero, dito gagawin nila. So, again, the old adage, di ba? Bakit nasusunod natin yung mga rules pag nandun tayo, pero dito, we don't. Mr. President, I'll go back to your question earlier about the global e-cigarette or vape market. Worldwide, it is valued at US 27 to 35 billion pesos as of dollars. US 27 to 35 billion dollars as of 2024. And then the Philippine market is valued at US 113.6 million dollars in 2023. But for the Philippines alone, it is projected to reach $345 million, so times 3 in 2030. So 4 years from now, they expect that market to grow
That'll be
times
about
3. 113
15 billion
to
pesos.
345. So that's really sad,
Yes.
Mr. President. I would be so happy if this was the agricultural market, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Rice production, vegetable production, chicken production. But we're talking about the product that is not good for youth or adults. It's not good for us.
Is it correct? I caught it somewhere that the Secretary of Trade mentioned or was publicly quoted as saying she is against vaping. Is that right?
I think I recall that I chatted with her when she was newly appointed, and I made my position very clear. So I would be happy. I can't recall for sure, but
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised if she did say that, because I do recall that she was expressed concern naman when we talked. I don't really recall what her official statements were, but nothing's being done. Usually every budget I bring this up, and wala silang means, and they
Yes.
don't really bother because
There are other concerns.
they have other concerns. It's obviously not their priority. And like I said, they don't have the systems in place. They don't have the manpower. It's not even their mandate. I feel like, what case do you file against an agency that takes upon itself a task that is not within their mandate, but by law, it was given to them? So,
Yeah, I remember the debates. That
Exactly.
it should not be with the Department of Trade. It should be with the Department of Health.
Exactly,
and
Mr.
the FDA.
President. Yes.
Yes. Well, we'd like to thank the good senator, and we place on record that she has our full support, and we look forward to being able to bring the measure on the floor for debates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
President.
Mr. President. Thank you, Majority.
Thank you, Mr.
Majority
President.
Leader.
Mr. President, move that we refer may we recognize our distinguished Deputy Majority.
Senator Risa Ontiveros recognized.
Salamat po, Mr. President. I heard the good gentlewoman from Taguig and Pateros's privileged speech. I thank her for the affirmation of the continuing work of the Committee on Health. And I would just like to make it of record that we will agenda her bill, to hear her bill during the next hearing. Naka-waitlist lang po.
Oh, thank you.
Ngayon ang komite for a room next week, Mr. President.
That's amazing,
Salamat po,
Mr. President. Thank you very
and to
much.
the good gentlewoman.
So with that, Mr. President, we already know where this speech is going to be referred to. No, it's okay. We're going to refer it, Mr. President. No. We move to refer it, Mr. President, to the Committee on Health and Demography, Mr. President, for immediate action by the chairperson.
So referred to the Committee on Health.
Thank you very much. We thank also the
Go ahead.
sponsor of the privileged speech. Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1899 and the Committee Report number 32. I so move. Mr. President.
Any objection? 1899 is transferred.
May we consider Senate Bill number 1899 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure. Sponsor.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of 1899 is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
An act allowing the Department of Education the flexibility to determine the pedagogical approaches to be implemented in the basic education curriculum, amending for the purpose Section 5 of Public Act Number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013.
Mr. President, may we recognize the sponsor, our distinguished colleague, Senator Bam Aquino.
Senator Bam Aquino is recognized to sponsor the measure.
Yes, Mr. President, dear colleagues, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. Mga kababayan at kapwa ko Pilipino, magandang gabi po. The Committee on Basic Education is pleased to present Senate Bill number 1899 under Committee Report number 32, otherwise known as the Curriculum Flexibility under the Enhanced Basic Education Act. Nais po nating pasalamatan ang EDCOM 2 at ang ating counterpart sa EDCOM, my co-chair, Representative Roman Romulo, para po sa panukalang ito. Dahil po sa kanilang dedikasyon, ngayon po naaaksyonan na po natin ang isang reforma na makakatulong sa mga estudyante at gurong Pilipino. Spiral progression was instituted to address discontinuity and fragmentation in the pre-K-12 curriculum. This model was meant to ensure long-term retention by repeatedly engaging learners with core concepts with increasing complexity over time, hence the term spiral progression. However, Mr. President, this methodology was legislated alongside the Enhanced Basic Education Act. According to EDCOM 2 and according to our own consultations with teachers, nakita ho namin how this rigidity of the legislated curriculum sequencing has been challenging to our students and teachers. In short, Mr. President, naging batas ang paggamit ng methodology na ito sa ating bansa. Nais natin, Mr. President, na magkaroon ng flexibility ang ating Department of Education sa curriculum na kanila pong ginagamit. Rather than mandating specific methodologies, binibigyan po natin ng espasyo ang DepEd na magkaroon ng flexibility sa kanilang paggamit ng curriculum. Mr. President, our proposed bill gives DepEd, school administrators, and teachers leeway in planning and adjusting the curriculum that will be implemented in every classroom. We will no longer include the requirement of spiral progression as the only way to teach our students. With this amendment, we will be legislating standards for our basic education curriculum rather than specific methodologies. Hindi po natin ibig sabihin na hindi nagagamitin ng spiral progression. In fact, Mr. President, it can still be used by our schools and by our teachers. Instead, the bill removes legal requirements to adhere to this certain method of teaching. This bill, Mr. President, provides flexibility to address the curriculum in the best and most relevant way possible to ensure that our students gain the mastery that they need to move on to the next grade level. Mr. President, ngayong taong ito, nabigyan natin ng pinakamataas na pondo sa edukasyon sa kasaysayan ng Pilipinas. That indeed, Mr. President, is an accomplishment by the Senate and Congress and by the Executive and by the DepEd. Ngayon po, kailangan masigurado na tuloy-tuloy yung reforma. Kailangan po tutukan natin ang lahat ng paraan para solusyonan ang krisis sa edukasyon, kabilang na po ang mga hamon sa curriculum design approach. Mr. President, mga kasama, inaasahan po natin na magkakaisa tayo para ipasa ang panukalang ito na tumutulong sa ating mga guro at estudyante. When we provide flexibility in our curriculum, we allow our teachers to do what they do best. This is a key step towards addressing our education crisis, and we hope, Mr. President, that with the passage of this measure, we begin the journey towards improving our students' proficiency and literacy. Maraming salamat, Mr. President, and thank you, dear colleagues. This is a one-page bill. This is a two-page bill, Mr. President. We hope that we can come together and support this bill at the soonest possible time. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President and dear colleagues.
May we recognize also our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Senator Joel Villanueva is recognized.
Mr. President, as much as we would like to deliver our co-sponsorship speech, as we are one of the co-authors and co-sponsor of the measure, we just like to put on record, Mr. President, our sincerest thanks and gratitude to our dear chairperson of the Senate Committee on Basic Education, our fellow EDCOM 2 Commissioner, Senator Bam Aquino, for making this measure one of his priorities. May I just be allowed, Mr. President, to just insert into the records our co-sponsorship speech. Thank you, Mr. President.
So inserted into the records.
Mr. President.
May we recognize Senator
Senator Pia Cayetano is recognized.
Mr. President, I also have a speech, but given that the sponsor emphasized it's a one-page speech, it's a one-page bill, my speech is longer than one page. I will also insert it into the record, Mr. President, and I'd just like to express my gratitude to the sponsor for taking up this measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. President, allow our colleagues some time to study the measure. Yes, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian would like to also deliver his sponsorship speech. I hope it's also one page, because anyway, the bill is one page.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is
Just kidding,
recognized.
Mr. President. We recognize the good.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Sorry for interrupting you. I also will give a co-sponsorship speech. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise today to co-sponsor an act allowing the Department of Education the flexibility to determine pedagogical approaches to be implemented in the basic education curriculum, amending for the purpose Section 5 of Republic Act Number 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013. The spiral progression approach is a well-intentioned curriculum framework that is meant to make learning continuous, connected, and progressively deeper as learners move up. At its core, the idea is simple. Concepts are introduced early and revisited repeatedly in later grades. Each time a concept is revisited, it is developed and given greater depth. Difficulty increases incrementally over time. Learners progress by building on earlier learning, with the goal being mastery of the subject matter. But as data would reveal, implementation has been far from straightforward. A 2020 study by the Assessment, Curriculum, and Technology Research Center observed that teachers did not have adequate time to teach all the competencies under the intended K-12 curriculum. The results of the study showed that less than one-third of the teachers reported having enough time to cover all learning competencies. Dahil sa kakulangan sa oras, hindi lubos na natuturo lahat ng kinakailangang competencies. Malaki ang nagiging negatibong epekto nito sa ating mga mag-aaral. Umaakyat sila sa susunod na baitang nang hindi pa ganap na nahuhubog ang kanilang pundasyon para maintindihan ang mga susunod at mas mahirap na leksyon. The ACTRC study also found that in levels grade 6 and above, most learners are not grade ready because they failed to master the learning competencies of the previous level. In pre-grade 9 chemistry, only 13% of learners were grade ready. In pre-grade 10 chemistry, the result is even lower at 11%. Hindi natin pwedeng hayaan ang ganitong mga pangyayari. Malinaw sa datos at sa karanasan ng ating mga guro na kailangan maging bukas at flexible ang ating mga curriculum para hindi natatali ang ating mga paaralan sa iisang uri ng pagtuturo. This amendatory bill introduces the necessary flexibility. Section 5 mandates that curriculum for basic education will employ the approach deemed most effective by the Department of Education to ensure mastery of knowledge and skills for each level. This call to flexibility was echoed in the final report of the Second Congressional Commission on Education. One of its recommendations for developing the functional literacy of early learners is to remove the mandatory application of spiral progression in basic education in order to enable flexibility and localized instruction. A periodic review every 5 years monitors learner progress and curriculum responsiveness. This ensures that education remains dynamic, appropriate to context, and learner-centered. This flexibility is especially critical today as government has committed unprecedented resources to education. Mr. President, with our historic education budget of 1.3 trillion pesos, we stand on the threshold of great change for the future of our learners and our country. For this budget to be put to its best use, key reforms in the way education is delivered must follow. The road to education reform is long, but this measure is a critical step in the right direction. It empowers teachers to respond to specific needs and realities of their classes, which will ensure that no learner is left behind. Before I end, I would like to thank the sponsor of this bill, Senator Bam Aquino, for his commitment to improving the quality of education in our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much,
Majority
Mr. President.
Leader.
Mr. President, we'll allow our colleagues to study the measure. We move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration of the measure suspended.
Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar of ordinary business to special order Senate Bill number 1910 under Committee Report number 37.
Any objection? Hearing none, consideration is transferred.
I move that
The bill is transferred.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we consider Senate Bill number 1910 and ask the Secretary to read the title of the measure.
Hearing no objection, consideration is in order. The Secretary will read the title of the measure.
And now providing for a free financial education to overseas Filipino workers and their families.
May we recognize the sponsor, Mr. President, no other than our distinguished Chairman of the Committee on Migrant Workers and Labor, Senator Raffy Tulfo.
Senator Raffy Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Mr. President, or good evening, Mr. President, my esteemed colleagues. Before I proceed with my sponsorship speech, I would like to express my deepest concern over the plight of our OFWs who are now caught in the middle of this major conflict in the Middle East. Lubos tayo nag-aalala sa kanilang kaligtasan at ipinagdadasal natin na sana'y matapos na ito sa lalong madaling panahon. Kahapon, I took the liberty of meeting online with the DMW, OWA, DFA, and other concerned offices, and they assured us that our government is exhausting all resources to ensure their safety and security. Gayunpaman, if the situation worsens at mapupunta tayo sa mandatory repatriation, gusto natin maiuwi lahat ng ating OFWs na hindi lang ligtas, ngunit mayroon pa ring pagkukunang pagbalik dito sa Pilipinas. There is an urgent need to protect not only their physical well-being, but also their economic well-being. If there's one lesson that we learn from this war in the Middle East, it is the fact that we must always save some for the rainy days, ika nga. Having said that, Mr. President and esteemed colleagues, I have the honor to sponsor today proposed bill number 1910 under Committee Report number 37, or the Free OFW Financial Education Act. This is a measure that seeks to protect, empower, and uplift the very people we proudly call today as our modern-day heroes. Maliban sa giyera at mga kalamidad na maaaring magdulot ng kawalan ng ipon at trabaho, ilang beses na rin tayong nakatanggap ng reklamo patungkol sa mga financial scams na nabibiktima ang ating mga OFWs. These scams come in different forms: employment or illegal recruitment scams, love scams, cryptocurrency investments, mutual funds, easy money or fly-by-night investments, and pyramiding scams, among other things.
Sa mga scam sa social media, marami sa mga OFWs natin, even while they're still abroad, even before sila ay babalik ng Pilipinas, sila ay naluloko na scam. In some cases, pagbalik nila, wala na silang pera, ubos na.
Inangganyo na po, niya po kami kasi for expansion daw po siya ng capital ng pinaka-business po. Then nangako din po siya ng malaking interest po. 40% interest po.
40%?
Po, monthly po.
Wala ka pera-pera ngayon?
Wala. Nag-uwi ako sir kahapon. Sa totoo lang, hindi naman ako sinungaling na tao. 200 lang gutom, nagutom ako sa airport.
Dumiretso si Mamata from the airport, diretso dito.
Oh, walang-wala nga ako mga pasalubong, wala. Damit ko.
Masaya maleta.
Ang damit ko sir, ano lang yun, mga lumang gamit ko sa Jeda yun.
Wala ka man ng pasalubong.
Wala, kahit tingkayin ko pa yung bag ko, wala kahit isang pirasong biskwit o isang pirasong candy, wala.
Wala kayo naipon, ma'am.
Wala sir, kasi may ginastusan ako, hindi nga nakatapos ng pag-aral yung anak ko.
Kaya nga yan sinasabi ko hopefully maging batas na po yung financial literacy. Tuturuan po kayo, tutulungan din kayo ng gobyerno kung papaano po yung perang pinaghirapan nyo sa abroad, makakaipon kayo, pagbalik mo rito, meron kayong pera.
Ginamit niya yung SK chairman yung position para mahikayat akong mag-invest.
At 300,000 po?
More or less, sir. Ganon po. Investment po, sir, sa manukan at saka sa baboy.
Nagkaroon kasi ako ng problema ko sa Hong Kong. Bali, naging doble-doble na yung problema ko, sir. Tsaka hindi ko na kaya yung mga problema ko dahil nagkapatong-patong na. Depressed na po ako sa buhay ko, sir. Dahil wala akong trabaho sa Hong Kong. Kahit mahirap lang kami, sir. Marunong kami lumaban ng patas.
Yung pinangarap ko, naging ganito na lang. Sayang.
OFW ako, gusto ko rin kumbaga nagalit ako, aaminin ko. Maganda yung offer mo gusto ko rin umuwi ng Pilipinas. Sabi ko, baka ito rin pagkakataon ko. Dahil sabi ko sa'yo nung una, di ba? Huwag mo lolokohin. Yung pera ko ito para sa anak ko. 9 years ako hindi umuwi ng Pilipinas. Para lang mapag-ipunan ko ang edukasyon ng anak ko. 9 years, alam mo yung sinabi ko sa'yo, nagkamakaawa ko sa'yo. Ibalik mo lang yung puhunan ko, kahit walang tubo. 9 years, Joanne. Hindi ko nakita ang anak ko.
Nakakalungkot na ang bawat pawis, pagod at hirap ng ating mga OFWs ay napupunta lamang sa mga scammers. Kadalasan, nababaon pa sila sa utang at nakukulong. The truth is, many OFWs return home with very little savings, minimal investments, and no long-term financial security. Like I said, many of them fall victims to scams fraudulent investment schemes, excessive recruitment fees, and poor financial decision made without proper guidance. A survey conducted by the Philippine Statistics Authority on OFWs revealed that the bulk of their remittances go to personal consumption, or 47.4%, followed by savings, which comprise to 24.8%, while investment in property, business venture, and financial instruments account for the remaining 12.6%. In other words, only a meager portion of their money is saved or invested, which sadly, most often than not, go to the hands of fraudsters and scammers. To address this problem, it is therefore imperative to institutionalize measures that will help our OFWs develop financial responsibility and independence. The government must promote financial literacy to help future-proof OFWs and their dependents. Financial literacy will empower our migrant workers to avoid predatory lending, invest in legitimate enterprise, build emergency funds, secure insurance and retirement plans, and to start business upon returning home. Specifically, this legislative measure will, number one, mandate all OFWs to undergo more extensive and comprehensive financial literacy orientation seminars, which will be integrated in their pre-departure orientation seminar, or PDOS, as well as in their post-arrival training seminars, or PATS. These trainings will also be incorporated in pre-migration orientation seminars, or PMOS, OFW family and children's learning sessions, and other similar activities. Number two, place the DMW as the lead implementing agency in coordination with the Department of Finance, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, OWA, the DICT, DILG, the SEC, and other pertinent banking institutions, and most importantly, number three, provide that these mandatory financial literacy trainings and continuing education shall be free of charge. Currently, the DMW is implementing the Pinansyal na Talino at Kaalaman, or PITAKA program, in coordination with the OWA, Bangko Sentral, and BDO Foundation, whereby financial literacy videos are disseminated online via YouTube and Facebook. Dito po, tinuturuan sila kung paano mag-impok, magkaroon ng tamang pananaw sa pag-iimpok at mag-invest ng kanilang pera sa litimong pamamaraan. Mayroon din yung Financial Awareness Seminar and Small Business Management Training, or FAST SBMT. That includes skill training in setting up and developing a business. The Securities and Exchange Commission and the Philippine Stock Exchange, in partnership with the DMW, also conduct educational tours for OFWs to gain exposure to stock marketing, trading, investment funding, and scam prevention. In 2026, the DMW has also been aggressively expanding its partnership with private stakeholders to initiate other relevant programs that will financially empower our OFWs. Thus, this measure will ensure that these initiatives will be institutionalized at mabigyan ng sapat na pondo para tuloy-tuloy ang implementasyon ng mga programa. This is not just a bill about budgeting or saving. This is about dignity. Dignity for OFWs who have been remitting consistently over $30 billion annually, and these remittances fuel consumption, sustain communities, and stabilize our financial system. Ang batas na ito ay panigurado ng isang nurse mula Germany, yung engineer mula sa Japan, ang isang domestic helper mula sa Kuwait, at ang isang marino mula sa Indian Ocean ay uwi na may bitbit na kwento ng sakripisyo at may pondong magsisimula ulit sa sariling bayan. Mr. President, my dear colleagues, I therefore urge each and every one of you to support the immediate passage of this measure, the Free OFW Financial Education Act. Let us give our modern-day heroes not only an opportunity to thrive overseas, but also the chance to financially grow and attain stability at home. Magandang gabi at maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And also to deliver the co-sponsorship speech, may we recognize our distinguished colleague, Senator Joel Villanueva.
Senator Joy Villanueva is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished Majority Leader, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues. This representation would like to thank, first of all, our dear colleague, the Chairperson of the Senate Committee on Migrant Workers, Senator Rafi Idol Tulfo, for sponsoring Senate Bill number 1910, otherwise known as the Free OFW Financial Education Act, which this representation is proud to have co-authored, Mr. President. We believe that this measure, together with the OFW Remittance Protection Act under Committee on Banks, which we also intend to sponsor this week, Mr. President, are complementary bills that share a common objective. This is to safeguard the hard-earned income of our OFWs and ensure their long-term financial security. When we sponsored the law, Mr. President, not too long ago in creating the Department of Migrant Workers during the 18th Congress, we envisioned financial literacy as an essential component of the reintegration program aimed at the mainstreaming and sustainable return of OFWs into Philippine society. This policy direction is explicitly provided under Section 3, letter I, of RA number 11641, otherwise known as the DMW Act. Through this measure, Mr. President, our OFWs will be equipped with necessary knowledge and skills to properly manage their hard-earned income and make informed financial decisions. Gaya po ng sabi ng ating colleague, Senator Rafi Tulfo, yung mga remittances po remain a stable and significant source of financial support for Filipino households. However, Mr. President, it is equally important to examine how these remittances are utilized so that we can identify the critical areas where financial education is most needed. According to Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Consumer Expectations Survey Report, for the third quarter of 2025, 95.4% po of households receiving OFW remittances use these funds primarily for food and other household necessities. In contrast, only 39.3%, almost 40%, allocated remittances for savings, while a mere 7.7% invested these funds. Mr. President, kung mapapansin po natin, napakaliit po na porsyento lamang ng remittances ang napupunta doon sa savings at halos wala nga pong napupunta sa investments. Ito po ay dahil iniuuna ng ating mga kababayan ang pagtugon sa pang-araw-araw nilang pangangailangan ng kanilang mahal sa buhay. This representation firmly believes that our modern-day heroes deserve more than just admiration. They must be empowered to make sound financial decisions and be adequately protected from scammers, fraudsters, and other financial predators who seek to take advantage of their hard-earned income. Sa pamamagitan po ng panukalang batas na ito, binibigyan po natin ang ating mga OFW ng kaalaman, kakayahan at proteksyon upang mapangalagaan ang kanilang pinaghirapang kita at matiyak po natin ang mas matatag na kinabukasan para sa kanilang pamilya at mahal sa buhay. Again, Mr. President, in view of these considerations, we would respectfully urge our colleagues to support the swift passage of this measure. Muli, maraming salamat, Ginoong Pangulo, at pagpalain tayong lahat ng ating Panginoong Diyos.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Mr. President, also to insert into the records their sponsorship speeches are Senator Ejercito, J.V. Ejercito, and Senator Jinggoy Estrada.
So inserted into the records.
Thank you, Mr. President. To allow our colleagues to study the measure further, we move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Hearing no objection, consideration of the measure is suspended.
Before I move to adjourn, maybe just to proceed with the reference of business. So that we can
Additional
take up
reference of business, the Secretary
Mr.
will
President.
proceed.
Additional reference of business. Resolution number 319. Resolution directing the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations to inquire in need of legislation, the status, safety, and welfare for Filipinos in Middle Eastern states amid the escalating tensions, as well as the measures being taken for their protection by Senator Marcoleta.
Referred to the Committee on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
320. Resolution congratulating and commending Warren Wade Kasuga for being named absolute winner in the Natural Science category of the 7th Copernicus Olympiad in Houston, Texas, by Senator Marcoleta.
Referred to the Committee on Rules.
321, resolution for urgent measures to ensure the safety, protection, and repatriation readiness of overseas Filipino workers and Filipino nationals in countries affected by the February 28, 2026 United States, Israel strikes on Iran and subsequent regional military responses by Senator Aquino.
Referred to Committees on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
322, resolution directing the appropriate Senate committee to conduct an inquiry in need of legislation on the potential economic and security impacts on the Philippines of the ongoing conflict involving the United States of America, Israel, and Iran, with the end in view of formulating responsive proactive policy measures by Senator Fu Aaron.
To the Committees on Foreign Relations and Migrant Workers.
323, resolution commending and congratulating Team Philippines for an outstanding victory in the 2026 Predator WPA 10-ball World Championship held at Westgate Resort and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, USA by Senator Go.
To the Committee on Rules.
324, resolution directing the Committee on Agricultural Food and Agrarian Reform to investigate industrialization, the implementation of black tariff vessel monitoring measures with the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources and concerned agencies and mandated by the Philippine Fisheries Code, RA 8550, as amended by RA 10654 by Senator Hantiveros.
To the Committee on Agriculture.
325, resolution expressing the sense of the Senate urging the Philippine government to immediately implement measures for the protection and repatriation of overseas Filipino workers amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, to adopt interventions to mitigate the resulting economic impacts of the Philippine economy, introduced by Senators Pangilinan, Soto III, Lacson, Zubiri, Aquino, Cayetano P., Ejercito, Estrada, Escudero, Gatchalian, Go, Antiveros, Lapid, Ligarda, Marcoleta, Marcos, Padilla, Tulfo R, Tulfo E, Villanueva, Villar C, and Villar M.
To the Committee on Rules. Majority Leader.
Sorry, Mr. President. I was just talking to my mother. You know, no matter what we are in life and whatever position we take, we're always our mother's son. Yes, Mr. President. Sorry.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we adjourn session until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Tuesday, March 3, 2026.
Any objection? Chair hears none. The session is adjourned until 3 o'clock in the afternoon of Tuesday, March 3, 2026.